Chapter 568. Chow Patao was not like Courier. When she went to welcome Courier, she had to send a signal, but Chow Patao did not need to do so. Not long after Sun Lang left the military camp, he saw smoke and dust swirling in the distance. A speeding figure immediately turned around and rushed toward him. Song Province's General Zhao Yunlong had an unbelievable sixth sense, especially when he was looking for Sun Lang. The results were always unusually accurate. Sun Lang saw Chow Patao in the distance, and Chow Patao naturally saw Sun Lang as well. As she ran toward him, she revealed a brilliant smile and waved her hands. She looked extremely happy. Seeing her carefree and happy smile, Sun Lang could not help but laugh. Every time he saw Chow Patao like this, he even wanted to immediately squat on the ground and clap his hands at her. He clicked his tongue and told her to come over so that he could pinch her face, rub her head, and stroke her hair. However, he could do this in the past, but it was clearly impossible now. After all, with that unbreakable strength of his, no matter what he did or where he touched, it was not much different from playing on a sexy beach. While he was feeling sad, Chow Patao had already rushed over. Then, she suddenly braked and stopped, leaving a trail of smoke behind her. She panted slightly and then said, "Sun Lang, something bad has happened." Sun Lang did not feel anything in his heart. He even wanted to laugh. He had already been shocked once, and would not be shocked a second time. However, he could not tell Chow Patao that Courier had already been here. Even she would be disappointed if she found out that she had gone through so much trouble to make a wasted trip. Well, Chow Patao had flown over using the Blazing Angel. However, Chow Patao's Imperial Army Sky Sea Wings were not good at long distance and high-speed flying. She must have flown and run. Otherwise, Chow Patao, who was rushing over, and Courier, who was going back, would have collided in the air. He was in a somewhat leisurely mood and even thought about these unrelated things. He did not feel nervous at all. After all, he had already learned about the current situation from Courier. Wasn't it because Empress had schemed against him and accidentally reached an agreement with Master Lu and the others? If the sky wants to rain and the mother wants to get married, let him be. No, he will kill the soldiers when the water comes. He took out a water bottle and a small bag of dried fruits from his pocket and handed them to Chow Patao. He said gently, don't worry. You've run so far. Drink some water and take a rest first." Chow Patao took the water bottle and wanted to say something. However, after unscrewing the cap, she sniffed the mouth of the bottle. Her eyes lit up, and she immediately beamed with joy. She drank half of the water in the bottle in one breath and did not forget to lick the mouth of the bottle with her tongue, as if it was some kind of nectar. Sun Lang ignored that and said in a subtle tone, "Eat some more." Chow Patao rolled her eyes and tried to recall. Imitating Zhao Fei Huang in her memory, she pretended to be weak because of the long journey and said in a coquettish voice, "Feed me." Sun Lang rolled his eyes and said, "You're not done yet." Chow Patao's clumsy and shallow plan was exposed. She smiled and took the bag of dried fruits. She was in a hurry to report the news, but seeing that Sun Lang was not in a hurry, she was not in a hurry. Therefore, while eating walnuts and almonds, she said vaguely, "Sun Lang, Master Lu and the others ganged up to bully you. I came to report the news after I heard it." Sun Lang smiled and said, "Thank you for your hard work." No matter how cruel this Azura field was, no matter how ruthless this cold world was, he knew that Chow Patao would squat by his side as always. Alas, she was still the most conscientious. Zhao Yunlong looked at him and blinked. A puzzled expression appeared on her face. "You don't seem surprised. According to your character, after knowing this, shouldn't you be scared to death?" Sun Lang said indifferently, "What's the use of being scared? If this is destined to be a disaster, then I can only face it calmly. In the final analysis, this is a test I'm destined to encounter on the road of the harem. If I want everyone to be happy, then this is the price I have to pay. Although the price and sacrifice are a bit big, someone has to bear all of this," he said with a compassionate face. Just like the Western proverb says, if you want to play with a breast, you must bear its weight. If you want to open a harem, you must bear its wound. Chow Patao looked confused and said while chewing the dried fruit, since you have such a good attitude, then I'm much more relieved. Don't worry, I'll always help you. Sun Lang smiled and said, I know. We have a first-class friendship. Zhao Yunlong also smiled. I eavesdropped on Master Lu and the others' conversation before. Now I'll tell you. Although he already knew the content, he still let Chow Patao talk about it. First, he couldn't reject her good intentions. Second, if he explained it from Chow Patao's point of view, there might be some new discoveries. So Sun Lang said, then tell me. Chow Patao swallowed the dried fruit in her mouth and then said mysteriously, Sun Lang, Aunt Lu is really ruthless. Do you know who she colluded with to bully you? I know, it's that bitch Empress. This time, she actually thought of a way to collude with Shui Baochai and Lin Daiyu. Zhao Yunlong sighed. She said that they had already discussed it and let Shui Baochai and Lin Daiyu find a way to hold you back first, and then set a trap to find a way to lure you out. Lin Daiyu and Shui Baochai on this side, and Lu Shujin, Zhang Yinluo, and Zhao Feihuang on the other side. The two sides will work together to sigh. Why are these women so ruthless? Chow Patao sighed at first, then smiled and said, At first I was very worried about you, but your mentality seems to be very good. I think you can easily resolve it. Is there anything I can help you with? Sun Lang? Sun Lang? Only now did Zhao Yunlong realize that Sun Lang's carefree and leisurely expression had already stiffened on his face. Or rather, his entire person had already stiffened. Chow Patao stretched out his hand and waved in front of his eyes, shouting softly, Hey, what's wrong? Sun Lang blinked. His empty eyes slowly regained focus. He looked at Zhao Yunlong, his lips trembling. Sigh then, Hey. Chow Patao was shocked. Why are you afraid again? Isn't this what you're destined to face? Haven't you already thought it through? Sun Lang's eyes widened, and he said with a shocked expression, Wait. Are you sure you heard it wrong? Andy Liu is colluding with Sister Bao and the others? Isn't it Empress? Empress? Chow Patao had experienced the demon transformation in Lu Town and knew what Annie Liu had experienced. He said in confusion, Annie Liu has such a big grudge against Empress. With her personality, I'm afraid she won't say a word to Empress. How could she collude with that woman? I heard it very clearly. It was indeed Lin Daiyu and the others. Hey. Wait. Why did it change again? Why was it different from what Courier said? What kind of operation was this? Fighting on two fronts? Sun Lang was stunned for a moment, then suddenly came back to his senses. Wait, Master Lu isn't lying to you, is he? Zhao Yunlong was confused. Us? Now that there was no need to hide the fact that Courier had been here, Sun Lang briefly told him about Mao Mei's report. What she said is different from what you said. Chow Patao raised his eyebrows and said angrily, That barbaric old woman dared to beat me to it. That's not the main point. Sun Lang paced in place. Stop. Don't panic. How could this be? He muttered himself for a while, then murmured, It's fake. Maybe it's all fake. Zhao Yunlong looked at Sun Lang pacing in place and said helplessly, Sun Lang, calm down. Maybe this is Annie Liu's trick. It must be like this. Sun Lang squatted on the ground and drew circles. Otherwise, how could you and Courier happen to hear the plan one after the other, and two completely different contents? Chow Patao whispered. Maybe Annie Liu first contacted Shui Baochai and the others, and then Zhao Feihuang received the letter from Empress. She saw the opportunity was rare, so no. Sun Lang squatted on the ground with his head in his hands. The complexity of this matter was beyond his imagination. What was Annie Liu's conspiracy? Between the information that Courier and Zhao Yunlong heard, which was true and which was false? The most important thing was, he turned his head and looked in the direction of the military camp. The most important question was, did Sister Bao and Sister Lin already know something? The worst-case scenario was that they all knew no. When Sun Lang thought of such a result, he directly fell to the ground and looked very pitiful. Chow Patao looked at him, and sighed. Why don't you run? Sun Lang jumped up and shook his head stubbornly. I can't run. I can't run. I can't run. I can't run. Zhao Yunlong shook his head helplessly. You have to think about it. If the worst-case scenario happens, Sun Lang shivered but still gritted his teeth and said no. Being stabbed in the back is the shame of a harem man. Chow Patao sighed again. Well, as long as you are happy, I will protect you. Chow Patao, you still have a conscience, Sun Lang said pitifully. If the situation did not allow it, he really wanted to hug Zhao Yunlong and cry. Zhao Yunlong pursed his lips and smiled. It's good that you know. Then what should we do next? Next, Sun Lang's eyes gradually became sharp. He turned and looked in the direction of the military camp. Assuming that the information brought by Courier and Zhao Yunlong was true, then Sister Bao and the rest must have known the truth by now. Empress had also sent out the letter, and the situation was already out of my control. But I still have an advantage. That means that they think they have cheated me, but they don't know that I've already known the truth. They will still pretend to be polite with me for the time being. This is my chance. He clenched his fists and said firmly, return to the base behind the enemy lines and start an unyielding struggle. Chapter 569. It was noon, the time for lunch. An alluring aroma wafted out from the tent of the North Wind Camp's commander, causing people to be tempted by it. Shui Baochai and Lin Daiyu took off their armor and put on women's clothes. Even Bao Jiejia, who usually didn't put on any makeup, made an exception and put on some makeup. Light silk small fan, flowing cloud-wide sleeves, jade hairpin, yellow flowers, a woman would make herself beautiful for her lover. They drew beautiful eyebrows and looked around. Every frown and smile showed deep affection. There was no need for any words. Just through their eyes, they could convey their passionate love. However, Sun Lang looked at their hair and looked at their charming face. For a moment, he was lost in thought. This was their best time, but they waited for 2 years. How many 2 years was a woman's best time? He sat on the chair and was lost in thought. Bao Jiejia and Lin Daiyu were busy serving the dishes. At noon, the North Wind Camp had a special kitchen. The two generals personally cooked. It could be seen that they were in a good mood. Even the group of female soldiers were secretly laughing. As women, they must have seen something. Sun Lang wanted to help, but he was ordered to sit and wait. He wanted to insist, but Bao Jiejia glared at him. Bao Jiejia said coquettishly, "Do you think I didn't cook well?" So Sun Lang could only sit and wait. He watched the two of them busying themselves, doing this and that. The two of them seemed to be in high spirits and couldn't be persuaded. They only stopped when the table, which was big enough for 10 people to sit down and eat, was filled to the brim and couldn't fit anything else. Today is a big day. It's okay to be a little extravagant. Facing Sun Lang's slightly helpless eyes, Bao Jiejia smiled. She picked up the chopsticks and tasted a little. These dishes may be a little cold. After all, it's been a little long. Hey, why is it still hot? Sun Lang said helplessly, I have used internal force to warm it 3 times. Is that so? Husband's martial arts are really high. Big sister Bao sat down with a smile, and little sister Lin sat on the other side. The two of them sat on either side of Sun Lang. Husband, can we start eating? Sun Lang didn't react for a moment. Huh? What? Shui Baochai smiled and said, It was fine in the past, but now that our family is reunited and my husband is the head of the family, the rules at the table have to be set. We can only eat when you say so. Sun Lang immediately recalled the scene in Mingzhou when those people wolfed down their food. Of course, that was probably because he had set a bad example. But he quickly reacted, and a trace of apology flashed in his eyes. His smile was a little forced. We are all soldiers, so we can't care so much during the war. I'm already used to freedom, and some rules have long been forgotten. There is no need for such troublesome rules. Let's do as we please. Bao Jiejia smiled and picked up the chopsticks. She first picked up some food for Sun Lang and said with a smile, This won't do. When my husband is alone, everything is fine. But since you have to go back to the court to work, sooner or later you will have to start a family. Everything needs to be set up. Without rules, nothing can be accomplished. Now that there are only 3 of us in our family, it's easy. In the future, our family will have hundreds of people. There must be rules to control them. Hundreds, hundreds. Sun Lang's expression was a little strange. I don't want to marry so many people. Bao Jieja didn't seem to notice the slight change in Sun Lang's expression. She picked up another bowl and filled it with soup for Sun Lang. She said nonchalantly, "Moreover, when things here are done, my husband will have to go home. Now that your grandmother is old, and you have a family and a career, you are already the master of Rongo Manor. At that time, you can't be like this. At least, you have to have the bearing of the first military official of the court." Sun Lang forced a smile. He didn't know if it was because he was guilty or something, but he felt that Bao Jiejia was implying something. When Shui Baochai and Lin Daiyu came to the army, he was a little flustered. Later, he asked around and found out that these 2 girls didn't know the old Jia, so he slowly relaxed. But even so, he was closer to Lin Daiyu than Shui Baochai. First, it was because they were in the same situation. Second, he felt that Bao Jiejia was very smart. She didn't show anything, but in fact, she could see more than anyone else. It was because she didn't fight and wanted nothing. Although she looked friendly on the surface, he was afraid that she thought more than anyone else. So, how much did she know? And was Chao Patao's information true? Previously, when Chao Patao came to report to him, he was so scared that he almost flew away. He hurriedly came back to inquire about the news. However, he shamelessly leaned on the tent and listened for a long time under the supercilious eyes of the Tensei guards. But he didn't hear anything useful. Bao Jijia and Empress were negotiating fiercely, which was an eye-opener for him. Apart from other things, Bao Jijia's ability to scold people in a roundabout way without any vulgarities was really amazing. She had a good sense of propriety. He could hear that Bao Jiejia was repeatedly testing and toying with Empress's bottom line and explosive points. Both sides were attacking and defending, and they were having a lot of fun. Then, there was no more talk about the Azura field. Sun Lang was slightly relieved, but he didn't dare to be completely relieved. After listening for a while, Bao Jiejia said that the morning was over. She was going to cook for her husband. So, Sun Lang flashed out of the tent at lightning speed. He used his eyes to quickly and decisively intimidate the Tensei guards around him. Then he put on the gentle smile of a perfect boyfriend and stood obediently in front of the headquarters tent. He smiled brightly about Jiejia, who was walking out. Then, he was brought to the North Wind camp. He watched Bao Jiejia busying herself. He tried to sound her out with a few questions, but they all fell into the air. He didn't get anything out of her. Bao Jiejia handed over the bowl of soup and said softly, "Husband, don't be in a daze." Sun Lang quickly responded. He carefully avoided Bao Jiejia's fingers and took the bowl of soup. After taking a sip, he was stunned for a moment and praised, "It's delicious. Bao Jiejia, your cooking is really good." Then he added, "It's really delicious. I'm not comforting you." "I know." Bao Jiejia rested her chin on her hand and looked at Sun Lang. She chuckled and said, "Of course the soup is delicious. We tasted all the dishes on the table carefully before serving them. This is the first time I've cooked for my husband after 2 years. If it's not delicious, how can I serve it?" Sun Lang's heart was inexplicably blocked. It was the hardest thing to accept a beauty's favor. He had read this sentence when he was reading before. He didn't think much of it. Things had always been like this. The principles written in books were actually the principles of others. Only after experiencing it personally could one understand whether it was sour or sweet. He remembered that Bao Jijia's cooking skills were praiseworthy, but not to this extent. It could only have been practiced in the past 2 years. Then, what kind of mood did she have to practice these skills day after day? On the other side, Sister Lin was not to be outdone. She picked up food and said, "Brother, my cooking skills are not inferior to hers. This and this, they were all made by me." Sun Lang put down the bowl of soup and also ate a few chopsticks. He nodded and said, "Pinner, your cooking skills have improved a lot. I remember the dishes you made before. You either forgot to add salt or remembered that you didn't add salt when you were about to take out of the pot. In a panic, you added too much. The salt that was splashed out stuck to the bottom of the pot and couldn't be scraped out. Lin Daiyu pursed her lips into a smile and said, "Those are all things of the past. It's not like that now. These 2 years, I have been seriously studying. Not only cooking, but also needlework, poetry, and arithmetic. I have been working hard to learn all the skills that a qualified wife needs to have." She revealed an expression of reminiscence and said in a quiet voice, "At that time, I was only determined that you hadn't died and that you would come back sooner or later. After you came back, I couldn't just learn from scratch clumsily and not do anything well or know how to do anything. Since I want to be your wife, then I have to act like a wife. So, I've been learning all this time. As I practiced, I waited for you to come back." Sun Lang was silent for a moment and then said in a low voice, "Silly girl. Brother said that I am a silly girl, then I will be silly." Lin Daiyu narrowed her eyes and smiled very happily. "Isn't this called silly people have silly luck? After waiting for 2 years, you came back." Sun Lang turned his head and looked at Sister Lin, who had a jade-like smile. He then looked at Sister Bao, who had a gentle expression. He only felt that there was a mountain pressing down on his chest. He said in a quiet voice, "I'm sorry. These 2 years," Shui Bao Chai said in a quiet voice. "Husband, there is no need to apologize. There must be a reason." Lin Daiyu also shook her head and said, "As long as brother can come back, it is better than anything else. No matter what happens, as long as brother can come back safely," Sun Lang said with a pained smile. "You guys are so magnanimous. Instead, it makes me feel even more guilty." Sister Bao Chai smiled. "If it was 2 years ago and you disappeared without saying goodbye and only reappeared after a long time, we would definitely have lost our temper and taught you a lesson. But now, Pinner and I both know the taste of loss, so we understand how precious it is." So, she quietly looked at Sun Lang. Her red lips opened slightly, and she said in a soft voice, "Although husband doesn't say it, I can see that there is a lot of pain in husband's heart. It is even much more than what we have endured these 2 years. Perhaps due to some reason, husband is not willing to tell us, but we can wait. As long as you don't leave, as long as you are still willing to pay attention to us, as long as you still admit that we are your family." She smiled at Sun Lang. "After all, we can wait until our husband comes back from the dead. What is there that we can't wait for?" Sun Lang hesitated for a moment and said in a quiet voice, "Sister Bao." Shui Bao Chai put her index finger to her lips and made a shushing sound. She said with a smile, "Let's eat first. The future is long. If there is anything, we can slowly talk about it. Husband, think it through first." Chapter 570. What else could Sun Lang say in the face of such a considerate big Sister Bao? Her deep affection, her infatuation, her waiting, her tolerance, and all the love that was conveyed through her calm and gentle eyes shook Sun Lang's heart. Sun Lang closed his eyes and said softly, "Thank you." Shui Bao Chai smiled gently. "Don't mention it, husband. We're a family. There's no need to thank each other." Sun Lang opened his eyes and said with a faint smile, "I also have to say thank you to a family. In this world, the number of people who wholeheartedly treat me well can probably be counted on one's fingers." Shui Bao Chai picked up her chopsticks and picked up some food for herself. She said nonchalantly, "Oh, who are they?" Sun Lang didn't panic. He smiled and said, "Let's talk about it after I think about it." Big Sister Bao was startled at first, but then she nodded elegantly. "Then we'll do as you say. All right, if we continue talking, the food will get cold again. Let's eat first." Lin Daiyu had been obediently silent the whole time. It was unknown whether she really didn't understand or was pretending not to understand. When she heard this, she urged, "Brother, eat more. There's no such delicious food in Mingzhou, right?" Sun Lang nodded and said, "Thank you." Lin Daiyu was slightly startled. Then, she said softly, "Big brother has become more polite after coming back." Sun Lang was stunned. He scratched his head and said, "Maybe it's because I just came back. I'm not used to it yet." "Yes, I feel like Big Brother is a lot more reserved," Lin Daiyu said as she picked up food. "You don't even use vulgarities anymore. Didn't you use vulgarities all the time? I remember Big Sister Bao complained about you using vulgarities. At that time, you made a lot of excuses, but you didn't change. Over time, we got used to it. Now that you've suddenly become polite, I'm not used to it. Sun Lang picked up his bowl of rice and thought of the past. He couldn't help but smile. Ah, I remember now. I used to argue with Sister Bao and made her choke on her words. He turned to look at Shue Bao Chai and said with a smile, "What did I say before? Oh, I remember now. Like I said, you definitely have to swear when you're fighting. Fighting isn't like chanting scriptures. You can't speak softly." A smirk appeared on Sun Lang's face. Shue Bao Chai also recalled the scene at that time and showed a helpless expression. She listened to her husband retelling the situation at that time. For example, if I need a fierce general to lead the army to attack the enemy's left flank, I can't possibly say, "Sister, please lead the army to attack the enemy's left flank. Please do your best." If you can't do it, the enemy will be angry or something like that, right? I have to say, Shue Bao Chai, lead your army to attack the enemy's left flank. If you can't do it, I'll kill you. That's so hot-blooded and energetic. Don't you think it's super cool? The more he said, the more radiant he became. It was as if he had returned to the time when he had just escaped from the haze of the demon's sword. At that time, he slowly integrated into this world. He had friends, comrades, status, and respect. Humans were weak creatures who were good at healing and comforting themselves. When they saw a glimmer of light after suffering, they would forget some of the pain from the past. It had always been like this. Hearing this, Big Sister Bao said coquettishly, "At that time, you really made me so angry. I knew you were a devil incarnate, but I didn't expect you to be in such a state." Sun Lang smiled and said, "I can't help it. It's a war. How can I care so much? In that kind of place, it's inevitable that I'll be infected with some of the habits of the martial world. It's not surprising." That's right. Weapons, achievements, battlefields, success, and failure. You've changed many people's fates. Shue Bao Chai said softly, "Husband, it's been hard on you all these years." Sun Lang smiled and said, "It's all in the past. As long as I'm alive, it's fine. My life can be said to be inexplicable and muddled, but at least there's still some hope and hope. As long as I still have my martial arts, I have the foundation to settle down. As long as you guys are still around, I have the taste of living. Whether it's a gain or a loss, who can say for sure? Sometimes it's better to be muddle-headed." His eyes flickered as if he had made some kind of decision. He took a deep breath and repeated, "It's better to be muddle-headed, muddle-headed." Shue Bao Chai and Lin Daiyu seemed to have noticed something. They looked at each other thoughtfully. The meal lasted for a long time, mainly because there were a lot of dishes. During the meal, the three of them occasionally chatted a little. They talked about the past and reminisced about the bitterness and sweetness of the past. It was not until the dishes on the table were clean that Sun Lang touched his stomach and burped with satisfaction. The physical fitness of a martial artist was far superior to that of an ordinary person. He was not afraid of bursting. Moreover, although the amount of food looked scary when he was on Earth, the highest records of those big eaters on the internet were about the same. Sun Lang casually broke a wooden splinter from the table and used it as a toothpick. He was slowly picking his teeth when he saw Sister Bao and Sister Lin starting to clean up the dishes. He wanted to help, but was glared at by Sister Bao and Sister Lin. She said angrily, "Husband, how can you be so rude? Go over there and drink some tea and rest." The transmigrator, Sun Lang, inadvertently felt the warmth of a big family in a feudal society. He sat there for a moment and suddenly remembered something. He asked loudly, "Do you want to continue the discussion with Empress in the afternoon? When will it be?" Sister Bao wrapped her head with a silk handkerchief and put on an apron. She was cleaning up the dishes when she heard the question. She turned her head and smiled. "Now she is begging us. We have the final say when we start. If husband is interested, we can leave her alone for a while. Our family reunion is more important." It makes sense, it makes sense. Sun Lang crossed his legs arrogantly. But soon, he seemed to remember something and shook his head. "But it won't do any good if we go too far. You know, that woman is very narrow-minded and has a very bad conscience. If we stand her up, she will definitely take the opportunity to make things difficult for us. Although I am not afraid, the one negotiating with her is you." Sister Bao. So he stood up and smiled. How about this? This meal is a bit slow, and it's getting late. I will go to the middle army to take a look. You guys clean up and get ready. I will go over there in a while. Sister Bao's expression changed slightly. Then she smiled and said, Okay, then husband, take care. Lin Daiyu also poked her head out of the cubicle and said, Brother, take care. We'll be there in a while. Sun Lang's expression was somewhat complicated. He nodded and said, Then I will go first. The two watched Sun Lang leave in North Wind Camp. Lin Daiyu said softly, Brother almost said, Why did you stop him? Shui Baochai said slowly, Because at the moment when I was about to know the truth, I actually felt a little scared. I didn't know what husband would say, so I felt a little scared. After all, I don't want to lose him a second time. I don't want to experience that feeling a second time. She lowered her head, as if talking to herself. Some things, it's better to be a little confused, isn't it? Sun Lang left the North Wind Camp. He did not go to the Middle Army camp, but first went to the Jinwu camp. Qin Yuan Shuang and the others were also eating, and Xie Xian was unexpectedly still there. When Sun Lang entered the tent, he saw the two of them sitting on small stools, using a wooden box as a table. They were eating small dishes and drinking small amounts of wine. Occasionally, they would take a large mouthful of spiced beef and a small mouthful of cucumber. Sun Lang clicked his tongue and said, Drinking in the army, you will be hung up and beaten. These two donkeys were not afraid. Xie Xian was a cultured person who had read books. He grinned and said, Us juniors are basking in your light, so naturally we dare to be a little arrogant. After all, would you watch us be beaten? Qin Yuan Shuang laughed and said, Don't be afraid, don't be afraid. We have also practiced the method of sobering up. It was a general military rule that no drinking was allowed in the army. Almost every regular army in the world followed this rule. However, the rule was made by people, so if it was enforced by people, it would naturally be discounted. The army of the Lihua Kingdom did the worst to enforce this rule. From top to bottom, the entire army did not take this rigid rule seriously. Although drinking was not allowed, every cold morning in the land of Slaller was not casual. They had a drink to get rid of the cold. Drink, drink, drink. In the Hutu Kingdom, this prohibition was well enforced among the ordinary soldiers. Apart from before and after the war, people could drink like crazy. Usually, very few people broke the rule. However, this was only limited to the ordinary soldiers. The senior generals were much more casual. It was not that they disregarded the military rule, but that there were policies and countermeasures. With the cheat of martial arts, they were much more flexible in doing anything. For example, the method of sobering up that was secretly popular in the army was actually a method of using qi. If someone heard that someone from the military was coming when they were secretly drinking, they only needed to bury the wine bottle on the ground. A ruthless person could directly use his internal force to crush the wine bottle into fine powder and destroy the evidence directly. As for the smell of alcohol on their body and mouth, they only needed to buy some time and perform a cycle of qi to evaporate the alcohol in their body in minutes. Then, no one would be able to find anything that could be used against them. Oh, of course, this was only limited to those who were strong in martial arts and had profound internal force. As for those who could not do it, *T. In the army, the strong were respected. How could they drink when they were so weak? Go and drink milk. Sun Lang naturally knew this story. He was not interested in correcting the military rule of the Hota Kingdom. He smiled and said, Are you still sober now? Do you want me to help you sober up first? The two immediately stood up and said seriously, Completely sober. Are you kidding? Your method of sobering up is definitely not a good method. Sun Lang was silent for a moment, then said, It's good that you're awake. I came here today to discuss some things with you. Before you set off this time, your parents told you that you can choose to listen to me at the right time, right? The two looked at each other, and Qin Yuanshuang nodded without hesitation. Xie Xian also nodded and said, Uncle, I don't dare to do anything that is too out of line. Otherwise, my father and uncle will kill me. Sun Lang smiled and said, Don't worry. It's not out of line. I just told you in advance that if something happens, you need to be mentally prepared. Don't mess up the situation. Chapter 571. Sun Lang chatted with Xie Xian and Qian Yuanshuang in the Jinwu camp for a while before he came out. Facing the warm sun, he suddenly remembered that he had forgotten to show off these two bastards again. During lunch, his two wives personally cooked for him and accompanied him. They ate until they were full, but these two were drinking alone. It was quite pitiful to think about it. Therefore, as an elder, he had to care for the younger generation. He couldn't just let them drink. He had to feed them more dog food so that they wouldn't choke. This was the love and care of an uncle. But forget it. He remembered the terrible situation he was in now, and his mood to show off disappeared. Show off my ass. The chopper is already in front of my chest. Sun Lang sighed silently. He strode towards the direction of the main tent. As he went in and out, the Tensei guards became familiar with him. They knew that he was a temperamental and unreasonable guy. They didn't even have a place to complain when he beat them up. Seeing him coming, they didn't even stop him. Sun Lang opened the tent door and went in. There was also the aroma of food inside. Empress was sitting in front of the table with a book in one hand and chopsticks in the other. She was eating and reading at the same time. When she saw Sun Lang come in, she didn't even look up. She even ignored him and pretended that he didn't exist. Sun Lang didn't stand on ceremony with her. He moved a chair over and sat down in front of her. He smiled and said, reading while eating, "What are you reading, Liu Bei?" Empress didn't answer. She said indifferently, "Did you have a good time eating lunch with your two wives?" Sun Lang gave her a thumbs up and said heartily, "Nonsense. How can I not have a good time eating with my own family?" Empress continued reading. She didn't even look up and said softly, "Is that so? I thought you would be sitting on pins and needles." Sun Lang snorted in his heart, but he didn't show it on his face. He looked over and saw that the Grand Tensei General's lunch was extremely simple. It was just a soup, a dish, 2 pancakes, and a smoked fish. Not to mention the extravagant lunch he had. Even the food his 2 nephews ate with wine was much more sumptuous than this. Sun Lang curled his lips and said, "I hate pretentious people like you the most." Empress was not angry. He said indifferently, "What do you know? I'm afraid you won't even have the interest to take a second look at the luxurious food that ordinary people can't even imagine in their entire lives. You didn't have to worry about food and clothing since you were young. You didn't have to worry about wealth and glory. So you want to have greater ambitions and ambitions. You want to be an emperor. You want to increase your prestige. You want to restrain your materialistic desires. That's why you eat so crudely. Don't think of yourself as so noble and proud. It's not interesting at all." Sun Lang took out an iron can and slammed it on the table. "What? You don't like it? You really want to live a simple life and pursue dullness. Why don't you try this?" Empress frowned. "I have nothing to say to you." Sun Lang smiled and said, "That's right. We are people from 2 different worlds. You are the Grand Empress. How noble is that? I'm just an ordinary person. I'm supposed to spend my life as an ordinary person. I'll never be able to come into contact with the world of people like you. For this, I really have to thank your Highness for giving me such an opportunity. Thank you very much." Empress snorted. Sun Lang's words were filled with sarcasm. "You must think that I'm mocking you, but I'm sincere. Look, let's not talk about power and wealth first. Let's talk about food." He clicked his tongue and said, "I've eaten a lot of delicacies in the past 2 years. When I see something that looks like it will drop precious ingredients, I'll go up and kick it. No matter if it's flying in the sky or running on the ground, as long as it's targeted by me, it won't be able to escape. Even Bear Grylls doesn't live as well as I do. If I transmigrated to Keycott Village, those cat slaves wouldn't have anything to do with me. But if it was 8 years ago when I was on Earth, I wouldn't have the ability to get these things. Even if I had the ability, I wouldn't have dared to eat them. Take the bear's paw and tiger's gall, for example. I'm already tired of eating bear's paw and tiger's gall." Empress said coldly, "Sounds quite pitiful." Sun Lang sighed and said, "You don't understand. This is called modern society. It's called civilization. What is civilization? It's to protect every life as much as possible with universal sentiments. Over at our place, even if you want to catch a monkey in the forest and use a whip to train it so that it can perform for you to earn money, if the police find out, they'll invite you for tea. If the case is serious, they'll even send you to jail. He looked at Empress and said with a smile, "How is it? Don't you have a lot of freedom?" "Indeed, the Empire has a lot more freedom. Not to mention monkeys. Even if you want to catch people to fight, you can catch them easily. Of course, no one will care. But this freedom also has its disadvantages. Freedom means that no one cares. If you catch a monkey and no one cares, then no one will care if you get scratched in the face by a resisting monkey. Don't you think this makes sense?" Empress put down the book and said with a cold smile, "Monkey son, you came here to mock and ridicule me. Are you here to show off that you scratch my face?" "Io, don't say that. How is your face scratched? I think it's very beautiful. I haven't seen you for 2 years, and you've become more and more beautiful. Your skin is so delicate that it can be broken by the wind. Your appearance is so beautiful that even the fishes and geese can fall from the sky." Her Highness Empress Concubine naturally couldn't tell the difference between shuddering without feeling cold and standing without feeling cold. She didn't know that Sun Lang was praising her and thought that Sun Lang was mocking her for being as beautiful as a flower, but as vicious as a scorpion. She sneered and said, "What's the point of saying this all day? It's already come to this. Why are you still trying to win a war of words?" "Your Highness," Sun Lang sighed and said, "you've misunderstood me again. I'm praising you. You see, although there are no phones, computers, or my beloved two-thorn salamander here, being a trader here seems to be better than being an otaku. After all, although otaku and trader are both harmful to the country, being a trader that the imperial court can't get rid of seems to be better." The more he said this, the more Empress felt that he was plotting something. General Tensei shouted in a low voice, "If you have something to say, then say it. If you have something to fart, then fart. Don't be unreasonable here." Sun Lang said kindly, "Look at you. You're swearing again. It's not good to swear." Empress was so angry that she laughed and said, "Mother of asterisk her, it's all because of you. You see, you haven't learned anything else. You only learned one thing from me, and that is to shift the blame." Sun Lang shook his head and said, "You're making me take all the blame. Isn't that too unkind?" Empress felt more and more annoyed and said impatiently, "If you have something important to say, then say it." Sun Lang smiled and said, "Nothing important, nothing important. I miss the old chief, so I came to talk to you. Even if there's nothing important, it's also good to tease you and see you get angry. Anyway, you can't beat me." General Tensei closed her eyes and took a deep breath. Calm down, calm down." She forced herself to calm down. She couldn't be led by the nose by Sun Lang. She had to fight back. She made up her mind and opened her eyes. She didn't answer Sun Lang's words. Instead, she smiled and said, "Then you're really free. You haven't seen your wife for 2 years. Instead of being intimate, you came to talk to an outsider like me. If your wife knows about this, won't there be a big problem?" Sun Lang smiled calmly and said, "Sister Bao and Sister Lin are virtuous and considerate. They're not narrow-minded people. Your Highness doesn't need to worry about them." Empress sneered and stood up. She paced a few steps and said leisurely, "When I heard that Lin Daiyu and Xue Baochai announced that they would marry into the Rongwa mansion to observe mourning for you, I laughed at them for being silly. Now it seems that they really made a good move. I remember that back then, you didn't seem to be too satisfied with these 2 marriages that old Madame Jia had forced on you. However, firstly, it wasn't good to directly reject them. Secondly, with your lecherous personality, you didn't really want to reject those 2 beautiful girls. After all, who wouldn't like young and beautiful girls?" Sun Lang said lightly, "What do you want to say?" "I just want to say that it was really a good move." Empress said with a smile, "If Lin Daiyu and Xue Baochai hadn't announced that they would marry into the Rongwa mansion and then stayed as widows for 2 years as your wives, you wouldn't be so embarrassed and guilty when you see them now. After all, you, Grand Marshal Jia, have always been soft-hearted. When others treat you well, you can't wait to repay them tenfold." Sun Lang said calmly, "Yes, because you only know how to cherish something after losing it. I have no relatives or friends in this world, and I've encountered so many King things. Whoever treats me well, I'll treat them well. Sister Bao and Sister Lin are deeply in love with me. I've seen it all. so I'll never betray them." He was silent for a moment and said, "Because when I reached out my hand, they held it tightly and never let go. So I won't let go either. I won't let them go for the rest of my life. I'll make them happy for the rest of my life. There are some things that some people don't cherish, but others will. Once they let go, they'll be gone." Empress stared at him for a long time before she sneered. "You really think too highly of yourself." Sun Lang said softly, "Then I'm really sorry. I used to be an otaku, and I always fell into hopeless delusions. I fantasized about a harem, and whether or not the beautiful girl liked me. Your Highness, you're a beauty with a noble identity. I used to use you as a medium when I played with you at night. It's only human nature." General Tensei said coldly, "Shameless." Sun Lang said calmly, "I'm sorry for that. I won't bother you again in the future." Empress's eyes changed, and her chest rose and fell violently. After a while, she sneered and said, "Just say whatever you want. Sun Lang, let's see how you're going to deal with the matter between Shui Baochai and Lin Daiyu." Sun Lang smiled. "You don't have to worry about it. It's our family matter." At this moment, an internal guard reported from outside, reporting, "Second General Lin and Shui has arrived." Empress was slightly startled. She saw that Sun Lang had already stood up. This man had a smile on his face. He turned around with a smile and walked towards the entrance of the tent. He didn't look at her again. Chapter 572. The confrontation between Shui Baochai and Empress continued for the entire afternoon. A battle between two wise men was a battle that required a lot of effort. Moreover, both of them were intelligent and scheming, and their wills were firm and unwavering. Fortunately, they were both very skilled, and it was not too strenuous. Seeing that the sun had already set, Sun Lang opened the curtain and said with a smile, "Let's call it a day." Seeing Sun Lang come in, Shui Baochai and Lin Daiyu both stood up. Sister Bao smiled and said, "Since my husband has said so, let's call it a day." She did not look at Empress. Instead, she looked at Sun Lang and said with a smile, "Husband, what do you want to eat tonight?" Sun Lang smiled and said, "As long as it is made by you, I will like it." Lin Daiyu laughed. Sister Bao lowered her head and blushed. She rebuked, "Husband, you only know how to coax people. You always say these strange things." Emperor Concubine leaned her body against the back of the chair. Seeing the three of them chatting and laughing, she suddenly said, "The intimacy between you two husband and wife shouldn't appear in front of an outsider like me. It's quite an eyesore." "All right, General Tensei is choking on the dog food. Keep a low profile." Sun Lang said, "How about this? You two go back and cook first. I will talk to her again." Big Sister Bao looked at the Emperor Concubine curiously, but didn't ask. She pulled on Lin Daiyu's sleeve and let her out. Little Sister Lin turned her head and said, "Big brother, come back soon." Sun Lang sent the two of them out of the tent and watched them leave. Then he turned back. Empress was still sitting on the chair and did not look at him. She said coldly, "How come a Grand Marshal has time to talk to me?" Sun Lang sat opposite her and smiled. "Don't be so serious. Although we can't be friends, we can still be friends. Don't be so tense all day. After all, there's still a long way to go. You can't always be like this, right? Right?" Empress seemed to understand the hidden meaning in his words. He raised his eyebrows and asked, "What do you mean?" Sun Lang smiled and waved his hand. It's nothing. Look, now that we've settled this matter, we're going to be officials of the same palace. We used to be comrades in arms, but now we're colleagues. Very soon, we're going to be dragging each other down, stirring up the dung pit, and fighting for power and profit in the imperial court. We're going to see each other all the time. Wouldn't it be bad if others saw us pulling a long face all the time?" Empress stared at him for a while and said, "No. What are you plotting?" Sun Lang smiled. "Look, you're not speaking with your conscience anymore. You've always been the one scheming against me. When have I ever schemed against you? Even when I said, 'Be careful, I'll ask your father for your hand in marriage,' I was just trying to scare you. I never intended to actually do it. I was just joking. After all, I'm not an idiot, right?" Empress sneered. "No conspiracy? You went out a total of 4 times in the afternoon. What did you do?" Sun Lang chuckled. As expected of General Tensei. You've been here all afternoon, yet you still know how many times I went out. I just went out to get some fresh air and relax. I didn't do anything else. Only a ghost would believe this. Empress sneered in his heart. Get some fresh air? Just strolling around casually. Did he have to run faster than a mouse and make the person in charge of watching him dizzy in just a few moves? Empress said indifferently. You went out 4 times in the afternoon. Each time you went out, the time was longer than the last. Each time you went out, your expression was more serious than the last. I heard that you spent half of the afternoon in a daze. Did you encounter some difficult problem? Tell me, so I can help you think about it. Sun Lang smiled. I'm not afraid that you'll laugh at me, but there was an accident in Mingzhou. Empress's expression changed after hearing that. He smiled and said, Is there a fire in your backyard? Sun Lang sighed and said, I'm sorry for making a fool of myself. You don't know that there's a Taoist in Mingzhou whose Taoist name is White Snow. I don't know what's wrong with this Taoist White Snow today. He was talking nonsense in the city. I couldn't stop him at all. He said something vicious like Master Sun is fated to be in love, women are in trouble, Sharaba is inevitable, and how can the harem be won? I was so scared that I couldn't think straight. Empress did not know what he was up to. He said coldly, Since when do you believe in fortune-telling? Everything depends on people. Otherwise, everybody should worship fortune-tellers and ask about fortune all day long. At the beginning of the Heavens Origin War, the court killed many liars who claimed that they could predict the future. You should know that, right? You'd better believe it. Let me tell you, this Taoist White Snow is very good at fortune-telling. Sun Lang said mysteriously, Let me tell you something. You can ask him for fortune-telling. You don't need to know anything else. Even if you are fated to be an emperor or not, as long as he says that you can be one, you'll be safe. Empress said coldly, Cut the crap. I don't believe in such things. He said that you are fated to be in love. He's not wrong, is he? You ungrateful man. Sun Lang slapped the table and said, Hey, watch your mouth. Who's ungrateful? General Tensei said disdainfully, Whoever has 2 wives in his hometown and a concubine in Mingzhou is ungrateful. If it's not you, is it me? Sun Lang waved his hands and said, You can't say that. A concubine? That sounds awful. Empress said coldly, Is that so? Do you mean that you want Lin Daiyu and Shui Baochai to be your concubines? What concubines? That sounds awful. That's why your feudal society is so backward. Do you know what freedom, equality, democracy, and human rights mean? Sun Lang said with a smile. I'm a foreigner. Marriage is an important event in my life, and I have to follow the rules of my hometown. In my hometown, everybody is equal, unlike your hometown, where there is a hierarchy. Therefore, no matter how many wives you marry, they're all equal in status. There is no difference between a wife and a concubine. How about it? Is it much higher than your hometown? Empress said casually, Brilliant. Truly brilliant. Why don't you tell them that if you have the guts? Sun Lang said with a smile, Of course, I have to tell them. If I don't tell them, do you think I'll tell you? Empress sneered. If you tell me, I'll beat you to death. Sun Lang rubbed his fingernails and said nonchalantly, You'll beat me to death because you don't care about me. If you don't care about me, why would I tell you this? People who really care about me won't be willing to beat me to death. Empress kicked the table aside with a cold face. Get out of here. Who cares about you? You can go find them. Sun Lang crossed his left leg and dragged the table back. Don't be impatient. You know, right now, we could be said to be absolutely irreconcilable. We can't wait for each other to die immediately. But as for me, although I can kill you with a finger, there will be endless troubles in the future. I still need time to prepare. As for you, you don't have any way to deal with me. So, like your father, you have to pretend to be polite with me first, and then find an opportunity to deal with me. This is the reason why you came to Mingzhou while holding your nose. He blew away the crumbs on his fingernails and said indifferently, So, it's foreseeable that we won't be able to fight for a long time. We can only trip each other up and disgust each other. It's just a few tricks. No matter how you count them, there's no meaning to it. Empress frowned. What are you trying to say? Sun Lang smiled and said, to put it simply, I've thought about it. Since we can't do anything to each other for the time being, let's not make things so tense. We're all famous people, so let's not make things so ugly. Even if we have to fight to the death in the end, we have to maintain our poise and dignity. After all, you know that I'm a person who always keeps his poise. Bah. Empress saw through his intentions immediately. What do you want to extort from me this time? Sun Lang sighed and said, is this extortion? You see, we need to ease our relationship. You're the one who wronged me first, so of course you have to show your sincerity first. It's worth it to use something insignificant to ease the tension between us, isn't it? General Tensei said coldly. What do you want this time? You can tell your wife. We can discuss it during the negotiation. As long as it's reasonable, I don't mind agreeing to it. Sun Lang grinned and said, I don't think we should bother her with such trivial matters. Empress said coldly, so it's something that you can't let her know? There are only a few things that you don't dare to let Xue Baochai and the others know about. Then which one is it? Sun Lang's smile remained unchanged, but he snorted in his heart. Damn, this woman is quite shrewd, but that's exactly what I need. Empress thought for a while and suddenly laughed. Could it be that your backyard is on fire and you're panicking? You want me to help you ease the situation and resolve the crisis? You're so desperate that you're willing to do anything? Sun Lang said calmly, I admit that Sister Bao's matter is difficult to handle, but it's my family matter. There's no need to trouble your highness. I just want to borrow some east wind. Empress frowned and said, borrow east wind? What east wind? Sun Lang waved his hand and said, why is your memory so bad? Didn't I tell you the story of the romance of the three kingdoms? In the Battle of Red Cliff, Chao Wei's fleet was invincible. Zhou Yu, the governor of the resistance army, was helpless. At the critical moment, fortunately, Zhuge Kongming went to the Seven Stars platform and sincerely prayed. Finally, the heavens and earth were moved, and the Dongfeng, 21, was borrowed from the heavens to help Zhou Yu defeat Chao Wei's fleet. Have you forgotten this story? Empress had a subtle expression and said, no, this seems to be a bit different from what I heard before. Anyway, it's just that meaning. The romance of the three kingdoms is actually the same person. It's artistic and a little exaggerated. Sun Lang waved his hand and said, anyway, it's fine as long as you understand the meaning. So, what do you want to borrow from me? Sun Lang's face showed a faint smile. He looked at Empress and said calmly, holy sword. Lend me a holy sword. It can be anyone's. Chapter 573. The air suddenly became quiet. Empress's expression froze on her face. Meanwhile, Sun Lang was still chuckling. He rubbed his hands with a shameless look that said, although I look a little embarrassed, I don't mean to be polite at all. Anyway, hurry up and lend me 648 yuan. I'm going to save people. Seeing that Empress didn't speak for a long time, he thought for a while and added, don't worry, I'll be careful this time. I definitely won't break it for you. These words ignited the powder keg. Empress angrily said, don't even think about it. Sun Lang frowned and said, why are you so stingy? I'm just lending it to you. It's not like I won't return it. I've done so much for Dangwooly, and you won't even lend me a holy sword? It would have been fine if he didn't mention it, but now that he did, it added fuel to the fire. Empress gritted her teeth and said, Bullsh asterisk T. What did you do to the one I lent you? Sun Lang dug his nose and said innocently, what do you mean, what did I do to it? I don't know. It's obviously fine. I've never heard of it. Do you want to ask others? Empress slammed the table and said coldly, don't play dumb. Sun Lang pressed the table and said calmly, it's not crushed by you, so it's returned to its original owner. If there's any collateral damage, it's because it asked for it. Who can you blame if it doesn't have the ability? General Tensei stared at him. If looks could kill, Sun Lang would have died 100 times. The earth-shattering change 2 years ago was not only Sun Lang's fault, but also hers. The two were in a deadlock for a moment. Sun Lang snorted and said, forget it. There's no point in bringing up the past. You're so thick-skinned that you won't take it seriously even if I say it 100 times. So, lend me a holy sword. Empress said coldly, I don't have it. Sun Lang sneered. Bullsh asterisk T. You secretly forged one yourself, and you still don't have it? You still have the nerve to say that. General Tensei said angrily, You F asterisk king ruined my plans. I didn't think it through. I didn't expect you to come out and steal my prize. I accept it. But since you've messed up this matter, why didn't you snatch it away? Instead, you allowed the demon sword to wander among the commoners? Do you know how much trouble they've caused recently? Sun Lang blinked. Them? Empress snorted coldly and said, Ji-Du was picked up by a little girl from the demon tribe. I recently received news that this demon and sword are running around Songzhou. The news that the little girl has a magic weapon has spread. I don't know how many Wulian people, aristocratic families, and government soldiers have heard the news and moved to surround and intercept her. Damn it, how dare she steal my things? She must be tired of living. Sun Lang looked at Empress's angry face. After thinking for a while, he understood why she was so angry. Not to mention that she had painstakingly planned and forged the demon sword Ji-Du. The 6-star sword lady that she had painstakingly built was snatched away. The so-called hatred of snatching one's wife was nothing more than that. Moreover, this construction was illegal. Listening to her tone, the demon sword Ji-Du was still regarded as a magic weapon that was unearthed from an unknown place. It was fine if it fell into the hands of an ordinary person, but if it fell into the hands of someone who wanted it, the demon's sword had a spirit. If they asked a little, they would find out that this sword was related to Tensei province. Privately building an imperial army, and such a powerful imperial army, was a big crime. Sun Lang held back his laughter. He didn't expect that Lu Zhen didn't manage to intercept the demon's sword in time. It actually had such a wonderful effect. He waved his hand and said, I didn't do it on purpose. You have to believe me. Empress snorted coldly. If you didn't do it on purpose, you're also a robber. Sun Lang smiled innocently. Very good. Didn't I already have one? Chow Patao and Aunt Lu didn't manage to find it in time. I'll go look for it when I have time. He made up his mind and said with a smile, How about this? You lend me a holy sword first. After this matter is over, I'll go look for the demon's sword Ji-Du after I find it. I'll return the holy sword to you, and the demon's sword will be mine. You're F asterisk king dreaming. What kind of joke is this? What kind of thing can you give away after it's in your hands? Empress said coldly, I don't even have one. There's a hole for every carrot. There's no extra. Sun Lang curled his lips and said, You're talking nonsense again. Didn't I beat Qi Lianyan into a fine dough? Give me the fire sword, I don't mind it. General Tensei said stiffly, The fire sword is in the Mars Sword Palace. It's an important weapon of the Empire. I'm not qualified to use it, and I'm not qualified to give it to you. If you want it, go right to the Imperial Court. Sun Lang looked at her and said with a smile, It seems that a new sword master has been chosen. Introduce him to me some other day. He has to treat me to a drink. If I didn't kill his predecessor, he wouldn't be so lucky. Empress's face was cold, and she didn't say a word. Sun Lang counted with his fingers. The sun and the moon are inseparable all day long. They have a lot of followers and are quite popular. It's not good to rob them openly. Oh, right. I heard that the white-haired old man went home to retire. Empress couldn't help but ask, What do you want to do now? Sun Lang said indifferently, That old thing was really lucky back then. He managed to survive. I heard that he retired from his armor and returned to his farm. The gold sword is useless in his hands, so he might as well give it to me. When this matter is over, I'll go to Qinzhou and get the sword. If he doesn't give it to me, I'll kill his whole family. Sun ran murderous intent in his words. Empress had known him for a long time and knew that he wasn't joking. She was silent for a moment and said coldly, What do you want the sword for? Sun Lang replied, It's a family matter. It has nothing to do with you. I just want the sword. I don't want anything else. Empress stared at him and said, Didn't you take away the water sword? Sun Lang's eyes flashed with a trace of haze. He was silent for a moment and said slowly, It's not in my hands. Where is it? It's okay to tell you. Sun Lang said calmly, "It's buried with him." The tent fell into a dead silence. The two looked at each other in silence. As expected, the plan went wrong with him. Empress sighed softly and said, "As expected, I didn't expect it to be like this. I thought he was hesitant and cowardly." Sun Lang shouted harshly, "Just because he's a cowardly person, you can use him as you wish? Just because he's someone who doesn't like to kill, you can just let him die as you wish? Just because he's a calm person who doesn't want to get involved in disputes, you can use him as a chess piece? For the continuation of your country, for the peace of the world, you don't care what he thinks. You make him choose to make a painful choice. You make him choose to sacrifice. You arrogantly arrange everything. You, motherfucker, what right do you have to do this?" He was trembling. His hands that pressed down on the table were trembling. His entire body was trembling. His eyes were trembling. It was as if there was an endless flame boiling in his heart, roaring and roaring. Empress looked at him quietly and said, "This world won't reason with you. The sky demon's invasion is unreasonable. The human's desire is unreasonable. The choice of fate is unreasonable. People with power can control everything, just like how I could control your life 8 years ago, just like how I could control him 2 years ago, just like how you can control my life now. If you want revenge, you can kill me now." Sun Lang said calmly, I won't now. I'm different from you. I'll always be different from you. But I will kill you. Sooner or later, you'll die by my hands. I will never forgive you, never forgive you, never let you go." Empress said calmly, "Is that so? You should take care of your own business first. Transmigrator. I will. I will live very, very well." Sun Lang replied, "Native." Then he turned around and left. There was no need to talk anymore. The Empress concubine was still sitting on the chair, quietly lost in thought. She seemed to be reminiscing about the past, but everything no longer had any meaning. In life, there was always a choice to make. She said softly, "Sacred sword. It seems like he's going to Qingzhou. Not only Old Bai's sacred sword. I'm afraid he won't let Demon Sword Jidu go. And Huiyao. I have to start making preparations. I can't let him get what he wants so easily. But this guy is so difficult to deal with. Who should deal with him?" Suddenly, she felt an inexplicable chill, and her whole body shivered. However, this chill came and went quickly, as if it was an illusion. "What's going on?" Sun Lang left the central tent. The moment he came out, he was once again met with the attention of the Tensei guards. He smiled and pointed his middle finger at them one by one. Damn it, there were some things that he kept in his heart and had no place to say to others. It made his whole body uncomfortable. After he said a little, his anger became much better. He walked a few steps, raised his head, and looked at the sky where the sun was gradually setting. He took a deep breath. "Yes, I will live well. There's nothing to be afraid of anymore, right?" Mingzhou City, Marquis, Jing'an's manor. Master Lu held a letter with a serious expression. He said to Zhang Yinluo and Zhao Feihuang, who rushed over, "Come and take a look at this letter. I've been waiting for this for so long." The two young girls were somewhat baffled. They took the letter and looked at a few lines. Their expressions changed slightly. "This is..." Annie Lu nodded and said, "We've worked together before and can be considered familiar with each other. I can recognize the handwriting. It's definitely the real owner. I really didn't think that there would be this kind of thing." After Yinluo finished reading the letter, his expression was somewhat complicated. He said in a low voice, "This is a letter of challenge." Zhao Feihuang's eyes flickered. After thinking for a moment, he asked, "Then what do we do?" Auntie Lu said resolutely, "Is there even a need to ask? Since the other party has already issued a letter of challenge. If we don't accept the challenge, wouldn't we be lowering our head for no reason and become a joke? Of course we accept the challenge." Yinluo said hesitantly, "Be careful of traps." "If this is a trap," Lu Shujin replied, "so we have to make detailed arrangements and make foolproof preparations. Young Miss Zhao, go and call Zhao Yunlong over. Young Miss Zhang, go and call Courier over. I'll go and find Hu Shouxin. Remember, don't be too ostentatious. You have to hide it from Qi Guanyin first." Chapter 574. The moon was high in the sky, and night fell. The candlelight in the tent shone brightly, reflecting Empress's lonely silhouette. She had already eaten dinner and was sitting in front of the table with a letter in front of her. She read the letter over and over again, pondering over every word and sentence. Then a cold smile appeared on her face. "Come in." An inner guard walked in and half knelt down. The North Wind camp is brightly lit, and I can faintly hear the sounds of laughter. The two generals are still eating. No one left. No one left. Empress's eyes flashed with a trace of coldness. "Summon the inner guards. I want to secretly leave the camp." The inner guard was startled. "Where does your highness want to go?" Empress stood up and said, "It's none of your business. Go and summon the men immediately." The loyal guard lowered his head and said, "Your highness wants to dispatch that elite escort." "No need." Then a lowly general, "Summon the outer guards immediately." "No need." "Your highness." The guard knelt down and kowtowed. A lowly general has risked his life to hear that we, the inner guards, are incompetent. "We can't take on the responsibility of protecting your highness. Your highness, please choose more capable men." For a soldier, the greatest loyalty was not to sacrifice their lives, but to throw away their honor and self-esteem. For the safety of their general, they had to admit that they were not capable. Empress's eyes also softened. She knew this principle. If she asked the subordinate in front of her to go to the battlefield to kill the enemy, even if it was a dangerous place, he would not frown. But since he was an inner guard, he had to abide by his duty. When he found out that he could not guarantee the safety of his lord, he should speak up and not force himself. Her tone softened. "This trip is not to fight a war. You guards are only there to keep up appearances. The others don't need to go. It will be a pity if they are killed." The guard wanted to persuade again, but Tensei's tone became sharp. "I have already made up my mind. There is no need to say more. This trip is confidential. Do it quickly. But your highness' safety, as long as you can keep it a secret, that's your greatest safety. I have a Tianyuan saber in my hand, and I have all of you to protect me. Take the fast horse cannons with you. Even if the situation changes, we can call for reinforcements." "What are you afraid of?" Empress said coldly. "What? Do you want me to personally order the troops?" "Understood." The guard gritted his teeth and walked out with a solemn expression. Empress sighed softly, and her eyes became cold again. She was in a daze, and then she snorted. "And Quan, death is the end of everything." She picked up the letter on the table and brought it close to the candlelight. The flame licked the thin paper and turned it into ashes. When the last bit of paper fell to the ground, the Emperor's concubine said indifferently, "I want to see what kind of medicine you have up your sleeve." In the North Wind camp tent, there was a table full of sumptuous food. Sun Lang naturally gobbled up the food. When he was almost done, he patted his stomach and said, "Although I can still eat, it's still tiring to eat like this every day. Let's cook less in the future." Bao Jiju smiled and nodded. "Yes, I'll cook less next time." Sun Lang just smiled and nodded. Suddenly, he saw Shweb Baochai's eyes turn red, and she began to sob. He was startled and hurriedly asked, "What's wrong?" Shweb Baochai shook her head and sobbed softly. "I just feel the husband is so good to me. It really makes me feel ashamed." Sun Lang became more and more puzzled. "What do you mean ashamed? What's wrong?" Bao Jieji said sadly. "Previously, it was grandmother who wanted to choose a partner for husband. She was very fond of us and chose me and Pin. That's why we sisters went north to join the army. But I know that husband didn't like us at first. He only treated us as siblings and didn't have any romantic feelings. In the beginning, he even avoided us." Sun Lang smiled bitterly. "At that time, he really didn't have that kind of intention." Shweb Baochai nodded and said, "Husband, although you didn't have any intention of getting married at that time, you took care of us. Even if we sisters insisted on joining the army, you did your best to nurture and protect us. You treated us very well. Even if we were blood brothers, it wouldn't be better. As the saying goes, love grows with time. Our feelings for husband gradually deepened, but you always pretended not to know. It was as if from beginning to end, There was a layer of distance between you and us. Yes, at that time, I did have the intention of distancing myself from you all. But those things, Chow Patao and old who could know. How could I tell you all? Bao Jia said softly. At that time, husband had no lack of close female friends. Not to mention other things, General Zhao Yunlong was a genius. His martial arts, military skills, appearance, and family background were all better than ours. Not to mention, there was also, husband has always had his own opinions. Back then, you were able to leave home and join the army in the north to make such achievements. I'm afraid that although you didn't say anything about the marriage that grandmother said, you didn't agree with it in your heart. She didn't wait for Sun Lang to speak and continued. Actually, at that time, we all knew in our hearts that if husband persisted, even grandmother would have to give in. After all, you already had outstanding military achievements and a shining star. You were already destined to be the head of this generation. The Rongwa Manor would certainly shine in your hands. Not to mention grandmother. Even if the old master was alive, he would probably have to give in to you. Who would dare to interfere with your marriage? Sun Lang sighed softly. Shui Baochai shook her head and also sighed. So at that time, we also didn't know what to do. Our competitors were so strong. Could we win? Just like that, we worried about our gains and losses and didn't know what to do. Until the incident in the Great Desolate Mountain. Speaking to this point, her eyes reddened again. Choking, she said, "At that time, I thought that this time, no one would fight with me, right? But Pinner still fought with me. We had a big argument and even fought a battle. In the end, we hugged each other and cried. She was gone, so what was there to fight about? Who were we fighting for? She had already passed away, and all the glory had fallen. Finally, I could hold your coffin and return home. I could finally marry you, so I became your wife. I was your widow and couldn't take care of you, so I took care of grandmother for you and supported this family for you." Shui Baochai said softly. "I originally thought that my life would pass like this. I thought that I would be your widow for a lifetime. When I saw you in the afterlife, even if I didn't have any achievements, I had worked hard. You could not want me, right?" Sun Lang said emotionally, "Sister Bao, but who would have thought? It was like a dream." "You really didn't die," Shui Baochai said softly. "Originally, I should have been very happy, but I was also a bit scared. I didn't know how to face you. You were clearly my cousin, so how did you become my wife? You must have been very troubled to become my wife without my permission." Sun Lang shook his head and said, "It's nothing like that. Sister Bao is gentle and virtuous, and Sister Lin is innocent and cute. I like both of them very much." He looked at the two of them. His eyes were filled with calm gentleness and warm love. There seemed to be a bit of guilt. "But you—" Sister Bao wanted to say something, but hesitated. In the end, she smiled gently. "It's late. Where will you be resting tonight?" Sun Lang paused and said, "Sister Bao." Shui Baochai smiled and stopped him. "All right, husband, I've talked with Empress for a whole day. I'm a bit tired. How about you go to Pin Er's place to rest tonight? Pin Er, and I will sleep over there." Sun Lang slowly nodded and then stood. "That's fine. Rest early today. I won't disturb you." Sister Bao gently stood and bowed. "Take care, husband." Sun Lang glanced at them again and said in a determined tone, "This time, I will definitely not leave. I will definitely make you all happy." Sister Bao smiled and said quietly, "We already feel very happy right now." Sun Lang nodded slightly and looked deeply at them. He then turned and left, disappearing into the dark night with large strides. Shui Baochai stared at his figure until she could no longer see him clearly. Lin Daiyu came to her side and said in a low voice, "Just now, why didn't you continue to ask?" I saw that brother was about to say it. Sister Bao's eyes seemed to be covered with a layer of mist, but she still smiled. "This isn't good. Husband will definitely feel very awkward. It's like an interrogation. It's very strange. Also, after he said it, what could he do? Throw a tantrum? Throw a tantrum? Or magnanimously forgive him? Both are very unreconciled." Lin Daiyu said quietly. Then Shui Baochai took out a letter from her belt. She looked at it for a moment and then used a candle to burn it to ashes. "It's her handwriting. So let's go." Since we can't bear to force husband to say it directly, then we can only go ourselves. What kind of person is she and what to do? We have to go and see. Lin Dayu said quietly, be careful of a trap. It won't. Besides, husband is here. She called softly. Inga, a female general outside, lifted the curtain and came in. She said respectfully, eldest Mississippi Shwe Baochai said slowly, tonight, pick 2 bodyguards to sleep in my tent. Extinguish the candles and continue to guard carefully. You'll have to work a little harder tonight. Don't sleep first. Pinner and I have to leave the camp for a while. To be on the safe side, I will continuously send horses back. In other words, every 15 minutes or so, there will be a rider back to the camp to show that everything is fine. If things don't go well or there are strange movements, quickly go to the Soaring Eagle Cavalry's camp to find the son-in-law and tell him about this matter. 15 minutes. Inger thought for a moment and her brows furrowed. She extended 10 fingers to count again and again. She said in shock, eldest miss, a rider back every 15 minutes? You guys are going further and further away. This is impossible. Stupid girl, you don't use your brain at all. If I say it's possible, then it's possible. Sister Bao gently patted Inger's head. Inger stuck out her tongue. If Miss says it's possible, then it's possible. She thought for a moment and then asked, but to lead the troops out of the camp at night, you need a commander seal. Shwe Baochai smiled and said, previously, His Highness appointed the 2 of us as bodyguards and gave us a commander seal to act at our discretion. We can use it here. Inger, go out and gather the troops. You must be gentle. Don't make a big commotion. Tonight, the weather was beautiful. There were no clouds in the night sky. The moonlight poured down on the flat plains, causing everything to be suffused with a faint silver light. The horses' hooves were like thunder, roaring as they galloped. Tensei's inner guards surrounded their commander as they continuously advanced. Empress was fully armed. Her gaze was calm as she stared steadily ahead. Suddenly, a low shout came from beside her. A rider came to her side and said in a low voice, Your Highness, the scouts behind us have discovered a group of cavalry. General Tensei's expression changed. What's their background? It looks like the archers of the North Wind camp. The leader seems to be General Shwe. The man reported, Look, is it Shwe Baochai? What's she doing here? She even dares to act on her own. Could it be? Emperor Concubine's eyes flashed, and she suddenly laughed. What does it have to do with me? Pass down the order that there is no need to pay any attention to it. There is no need to block it. In the north, under the moonlight, there was also a small group of cavalry galloping wildly. Faster, 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 faster. Compared to Empress and Shwe Baochai's cavalry, this small group of cavalry was much smaller. Their style was also very strange. Not only were they a uniform female army, but they also looked like a motley crew. A voice was heard angrily. Master Lu, Miss is weak and not good at horsemanship. We can't go faster. Before Aunt Lu could say anything, Miss Zhao said stubbornly, Sister Su, I'm fine. A little bump is nothing. Let's go faster. On the other side, Zhang Yinluo sighed. It's a pity that we can't find Master Sanzang. I don't know where she went crazy. Otherwise, it might be safer to drive the nightmare chariot. Okay, we're almost at our destination. Everyone, cheer up. We can rest in a while. Aunt Lu shouted. Miss Zhao, how's the arrangement with Qi Guanyin? Miss Zhao took 2 breaths and replied, I've already arranged it. General Qi will receive a letter 2 hours after we set off. There should be a group of soldiers chasing after us. That's good. Even if we encounter any danger, we should be able to hold on until reinforcements arrive. The strength of this small group could be said to be extremely strong. Zhao Yunlong was the general of Song Province and was very skilled in martial arts. Courier was a Li Huiyin guard and had very strong firepower. In addition, the blazing angel in the sky was carrying Yinluo's flaming sun power armor. Master Lu on the ground was carrying part of the power of the demon sword Keitu. In addition, the weakest, Zhao Feihuang, also had the ability to control minds. The group was very balanced and well-rounded. Zhao Yunlong said coldly, I'll complain to Sun Lang. This time, he'll definitely be angry. Lu Shujin laughed. If you want to blame him, then blame him. I'll take it on myself. I'm doing the right thing. Even if he blames me later, I won't regret it. He suffered for 6 years and is finally free. To take care of the feelings of those 2 women, does he want to go back alive? If he can't make up his mind, I'll help him. If he can't bear to untie the knot in his heart, I'll untie it for him. Zhao Yunlong muttered, meddling in other people's business. His business is my business. How is that meddling in other people's business? Lu Shujin said loudly. Giddy up. The agreed meeting place was in the south of Mingzhou, east of Yongtown. It was a small mountain where 3 rivers converged. It looked easy to find because there were already a few red lanterns there. Courier was in the sky, overseeing the situation. He was the first to discover the target and flew down to inform them. Master Lu and the others ran for a while and looked into the distance. They also saw the marker and snorted. Let them get there first. Zhao Fei Huang said lightly. They're the hosts of the letter of challenge. Naturally, they have to come to prepare. Let's go. They looked at each other and saw the colors in each other's eyes. Some were curious, some were as if they were about to face a great enemy, and some were amused. It was as if they were about to fight a war. According to the previous arrangement, Courier was still patrolling in the sky. They ran up the mountain and saw a few tables and chairs. A few lanterns were hung everywhere, and the light from the lanterns dispelled the darkness. The meeting place had already been set up. Master Lu smiled. It's quite presentable. Are you going to sit down and have a chat? Before the others could respond, the sound of horse hooves could be heard from the south. It was followed by the muffled sound of combat boots hitting the ground. Someone was coming up. Everyone's expression froze, as if they were about to face a great enemy. The light from the lanterns outlined the person's shadow in the darkness. She was fully armed in golden armor, sacred and noble. The person didn't wear a helmet, revealing a cold and beautiful face. It was an indifference that looked down on all living things. Zhang Yinluo and the others stared at her without blinking. They were curious and scrutinizing her, but Zhao Yunlong and Lu Shujin's expressions changed drastically at the same time. Master Lu cried out, "It's you. Why are you here?" Lu Shujin, Zhao Yunlong, long time no see. Empress said lightly, "Also, why are you talking in your sleep at night? Weren't you the one who wrote a letter to invite me out?" Chapter 575. Empress said indifferently, "Also, why are you talking in your sleep at night? Weren't you the one who wrote a letter to invite you out?" Lu Shujin's expression changed again. "When did I write a letter to you?" "Oh." General Tensei did not panic. His expression was playful. "Then what is going on?" At this time, Zhang Yinluo and the others finally reacted. "You?" Yinluo stammered. "Master Lu, could she be?" Empress looked towards Zhang Yinluo, her gaze first stopping at the other's chest for a moment, then glancing at the Jinghong sword at her waist. She did not know why, but she felt a bit displeased with this woman. Then she said calmly, "You is the eldest daughter of the Emperor, General Tensei. Who are you?" Yinluo did not say anything. Zhao Feihuang boldly said, "So it's Empress. This little girl is the orphan daughter of Marquis Jing'an Fu." Zhao Feihuang. "I was taken care of by your highness in the past. This little girl thanks you." Empress's expression did not change, not taking Miss Zhao seriously at all. She looked at Zhang Yinluo. "I have already introduced myself. What about you?" Zhang Yinluo took a deep breath. Although the other party was the illustrious general of Tensei, the #1 woman in Tianyuan, to her, she was a legendary figure. If she saw her in the past, she would have fainted from joy, but it was different now. Although the other party's gaze was solid, and the power contained in her gaze could even crush the will of a normal person, Yinluo clenched her teeth and said calmly, "I am Zhang Yinluo." She was Sun Lang's enemy. She could not show her cowardice in front of her. Empress nodded slightly. Her gaze swept across the 5 people present. Then she raised her head to look at the sky, saying indifferently, "There really are quite a lot of people." Zhao Yunlong, who had not spoken all this time, said coldly, "If you don't treasure, there are plenty of people who will. Don't get angry at me first, General Zhao." Watching Zhao Yunlong, Empress finally revealed a faint smile as he asked, "Didn't you notice that Master Lu didn't say anything?" Everyone looked at Lu Shujin and noticed that her eyes were flickering and her expression was wavering. She seemed to have thought of something. Before they could ask any questions, they heard Empress say faintly, "Coming." The sound of horse hooves could be heard in the distance, followed by a burst of noise. It seemed that the Tensei inner guards were fighting with someone, but soon the noise died down. There was a muffled sound of boots hitting the ground. This time it was two people. Inluo and the others held their breaths. They seemed to have realized who had arrived. They saw two women walking up. Both of them were dressed like soldiers, wearing armor and holding weapons. However, their appearance and temperament did not seem to be that of soldiers. It was not Zhao Yunlong's confidence and heroic spirit that came from years of experience on the battlefield, nor was it Empress's noble aura that came from being in a high position. Instead, it was gentle and strong, like a beautiful lady from Jiangnan who had walked out of a painting. Although Zhang Yinluo and Zhao Feihuang had different personalities, they were both northerners. They were born with the forthrightness and magnanimity of a northerner. On the other hand, the two women in front of them clearly had the gentle temperament of a southerner. Although they were wearing armor, it did not change. The two women in front of them might have different personalities, but they seemed to have something in common. In an instant, it only took an instant for Yin Luo and Miss Zhao to realize that these two people were difficult to deal with. When Shui Baochai and Lin Daiyu came up and saw so many people, they were first stunned. Then they saw Empress. As high-ranking officers of court, they had run out in the middle of the night. Although they had Sun Lang's support, and even Empress could not do anything to them, it was still quite embarrassing to be caught red-handed. Shui Baochai bowed to her and said softly, "Greetings, Your Highness. What business does Your Highness have to come here in the middle of the night?" Empress said coldly, "I'm also confused. Why don't you ask Lu Guoshao?" Only then did the two of them bow to Master Lu. They sized up the other 5 women. Their gazes paused on Yinluo's chest for a moment. They smiled and said to Aunt Lu, "Master Lu, General Zhao, long time no see. I have missed you." After greeting, their gazes immediately focused on Yinluo. They smiled and said, "May I know who this is?" Young Ms. Zhao at the side maintained the grace of a love rival, but she was clearly gritting her teeth. Zhang Yinluo froze and said somewhat uneasily, "General Shui and General Lin, right? I am Zhang Yinluo." Embarrassing, truly embarrassing. Zhao Feihuang was already scolding in her heart. Fortunately, older sister Bao's gaze turned in time to look at young Miss Zhao. "Then this is young Miss Zhao Feihuang of Marquis Jinggan Fu?" Young Miss Zhao smiled and nodded. "Yes, I have long heard of the two of you. I am fortunate to meet you today." Shui Baochai and Zhao Feihuang's gazes met, and older sister Bao smiled and said to Aunt Lu, "When we received Master Lu's letter, we sisters rushed over." "What? You also invited Her Highness Empress?" Lu Shujin's expression darkened. Yinluo and young Miss Zhao's expressions also changed slightly. Empress looked at both sides and suddenly smiled. "It really exceeded my expectations." Master Lu was silent for a moment and then said, "I remember, I haven't written a letter to the two of you yet. Instead, I received a letter from the two of you today, inviting us to come for a chat." Older sister Bao and younger sister Lin exclaimed in surprise at the same time. They looked at each other and said in unison, "There's no such thing." Shui Baochai's expression became serious. "We received your letter. The handwriting is without a doubt yours. And no matter if it's the tone or the secret code, they are all correct. I also receive your handwritten letter. No matter if it's the tone or the secret code, they are all correct." Lu Shujin looked at Empress. "Is Her Highness Empress also like this?" Empress sneered. "Yes, it's your handwritten letter. I was still wondering why you invited me here. I didn't expect to see such a good show." Lu Shujin's expression was complicated. Suddenly, She let out a long sigh. Shue Baochai still didn't know what had happened. After all, she and Lin Daiyu were the most confused. They only guessed some of the truth based on their women's intuition, but they didn't have any concrete evidence or certainty. She said blankly, "In other words, we didn't contact each other. In fact, someone forged our letters and gathered everyone together." "Who is that person?" "It's me." A familiar voice rang out from the darkness. This voice was too familiar, so much so that no one present could forget it no matter what. They all subconsciously turned their heads, and in the darkness, a figure appeared, walking towards them. His expression was calm, and his white windbreaker swayed slightly. There was no fear, no retreat, no guilt, only calm. For a moment, Lin Daiyu, Shue Baochai, Zhang Yinluo, Zhao Feihuang, and Lu Shujin, the five women's expressions all changed slightly. The Empress concubine coldly laughed. Then, there was a succession of appellations, except for Empress's sneer and Master Lu's silence. Yinluo and Chao Patao called him Sun Lang. Miss Zhao called him Sun Lang. Lin Daiyu called him brother, and Shue Baochai called him husband. It was said that a woman was equal to 500 ducks. The unique appellations at the beginning could make people feel inexplicably cold. However, after they finished, they looked at each other with complicated expressions. Husband and so on obviously made Zhao Feihuang and Zhang Yinluo very unhappy. And the name Sun Lang surprised Sister Lin and Sister Bao even more. So, they turned their heads at the same time and looked at Sun Lang. Yinluo and Miss Zhao asked, "Husband?" Sister Lin and Sister Bao asked, "Sun Lang?" A smile appeared on Empress's face. She sat down on the chair and rested her chin on her hand. She said with great interest, "Did you do all this? Are you tired of living?" Zhao Yunlong was staring at the women attentively to prevent them from suddenly hurting people. After all, she had been subtly influenced by Sun Lang and knew the love story of Saberman Yin Yu well. Master Lu suddenly came forward and shouted in a low voice, "Why are you here? I didn't mean to ask you to." "Quiet, quiet. Don't be impatient." Sun Lang said with a smile, "This is my business. How can I ask you to do it? Don't worry about it. Leave it to me." He ignored Master Lu and said to Lin Daiyu and Shue Baochai, "First of all, let me explain the problem of the appellation. After I came out of the Great Desolate Mountain, I couldn't use my old name to show off. It's too high profile, so I came up with a stage name. Master Lu shouted, "Sun Lang." But the next moment, Sun Lang shouted sternly, startling the girls, "Zhao Yunlong." Chao Patao straightened her body subconsciously and said loudly, "Yes." Sun Lang's tone was unprecedentedly cold and full of authority. He shouted resolutely and decisively, "From now on, I'm going to give an important speech. You maintain the order of the battlefield. Don't let anyone interrupt or speak. If anyone dares to interrupt, smack her with the barrel of your gun. Hit her mute acupoint and smack her hard." Zhao Yunlong held the gun in her hand and said loudly, "Yes." Both sides knew what kind of person Zhao Yunlong was. She was usually normal, but when she was involved with Sun Lang, she became strange. As long as Sun Lang gave the order, there was nothing she didn't dare to do. She wouldn't give face to anyone. So here came the problem. They knew that no matter whether Sun Lang was telling the truth or not, as long as he said it, Zhao Yunlong would definitely do it. If he asked her to smack his but hard, she wouldn't just use 80% of her strength. So, on the one hand, the girls were intimidated by Sun Lang's imposing manner. On the other hand, they were also intimidated by Zhao Yunlong's gaze. Being smacked on them but was already very embarrassing, not to mention being smacked under the watchful eyes of so many people. It could be said that it was the shame of a lifetime, so everyone shut their mouths, including Lu Shujin. She wasn't afraid of Sun Lang's threat, but she couldn't go against Sun Lang and embarrass him. Sun Lang looked at her, and a trace of apology and gratitude flashed across his face. He whispered, "This is good. Everyone is together. Everything else isn't important." Then, without waiting for the other party to answer, he strode to the center. The two sides were clearly separated. "Just now, you have made a simple self-introduction. We won't say much. Sun Lang paced 2 steps in place. Let's go straight to the point. You may still be confused as to why the situation has become like this. Don't worry, we'll talk about it slowly. Chapter 576. The cold moon hung high in the sky, the night wind rustled, and the hanging lanterns swayed in the wind, shrouding the small hill in a chill. Let's take a look at the current situation. In the sky, there was a peanut with a shell hanging on to the shell of another peanut. As for the peanuts on the ground, they were divided into 2 distinct factions. The peanuts in the south are Lindayu and Shwebaochai. There are more peanuts in the north. We named them by code names, namely Sun, Huang, Milk, and Go. There is also housekeeper Su, who insists on coming to make up the numbers. There is also Empress Peanut Noodle Stall. These women have different social statuses and roles, and their attributes are also very different. Some are old lovers, some are best friends, and some are new lovers. They did not know of each other's existence before. Judging from the rules of Bai Shui and the Shiraba, once these women gather together, something extraordinary will definitely happen. Therefore, it is natural that a wise philanthropist would put avoiding this situation as the first thing in the management of the harem. If this situation really happens, then the philanthropist would have to choose countermeasures according to the situation. Generally speaking, running away is shameful but useful. Therefore, when a philanthropist discovers the clues and trend of the Shiraba, not only does he not decisively take countermeasures, but he does the opposite. He actually gathers the harem together and openly appears in the world. This kind of behavior can undoubtedly be described as unwise. But Sun Lang, who did this, did not look like he was unwise at all. His expression was calm, his eyes were calm, he did not smile, and his steps were steady. Every movement carried a strong sense of oppression and aggressiveness, making people involuntarily look at his figure. After all, he was the commander of Heaven's origin, whose name shook the 6 armies in the past. After all, he was now the #1 in the world. He controlled the most powerful armed force in the world and fought a world war for the future of the race with a terrifying enemy. Countless strong soldiers and fierce generals served him, and one sword could defeat 1,000,000 soldiers. This legendary life and experience was enough to polish an ordinary soul into a peerless divine sword. Just as everyone felt that it was scary when an honest person got angry, when a guy who was always smiling and messing around suddenly became powerful and domineering, people who were used to his arrogant look would be shocked and not dare to speak. Therefore, it was clearly such a terrifying situation, but Sun Lang directly appeared and gained the upper hand by a show of strength. It actually allowed him to seize the initiative and temporarily control the situation. With his aura alone, he firmly suppressed the threat of the Azura field. Looking around the entire place, it could be said that he was like a hawk looking at wolves. It was as if he was looking at a group of generals respectfully waiting for him to give orders, and not a female Azura who could cut him into pieces at any time. Luo and the others had never seen such a serious Sun Lang before. It was as if they had discovered a new world, and they actually felt that it was very cool. But then, a strange thought flashed through everyone's mind. Strange, he was clearly in the wrong, and we were the ones who came to catch him in the act. Why was he the one who was showing off and shouting? It was completely the other way around, wasn't it? What kind of person was Sun Lang? Once he got the opportunity, he would not give the enemy a chance to recover. He paced 2 steps on the spot and said calmly, "These few days, everyone must not have slept well. It's the same for me. I always wanted to say something to everyone, always wanted to find someone to talk to. But there has to be an end to this. Let's talk about my experience first. You may have heard of my story more or less." A trace of sadness flashed in Sun Lang's eyes. Then he smiled. "Simply put, I've been a failure in my life. I've been fighting for 6 years. I've lied to myself for 6 years. In the end, everything turned out to be fake. Falling out with his comrades, reversing the blade of his sword. A brother who had been through life and death was gone just like that. After I climbed out of the great desolate mountain, I didn't even know what I was going to do next. I also didn't know what I had done in the past 6 years. He waved his hand and said with a smile, "Don't show that expression. All right, don't glare at Her Highness Empress. She's a guest, so don't feel sad for me. I've been sad for a long time. I've already cried what I should cry. It's meaningless to keep mentioning it." However, there was a period of time when I often thought, damn it, why did it have to be me? At that time, it was really hateful. I didn't like anyone. I would use my sword chi to attack randomly. I was temperamental and lost my temper. Sometimes, when I was walking, I would find a mountain in front of me. I could even destroy the mountain in one breath. But later, slowly, the anger in my heart calmed down a little, because I realized that it wasn't too bad. In fact, it wasn't that I didn't get anything. Force, plunder, lies, betrayal. Although my life was full of these things, at least wasn't too bad. Although I had a deep relationship with the traders, but he looked at the girls present one by one. Of course, Empress was an exception. Then he said with a smile, "I think, in addition to those bad things, I can also easily meet very, very good girls." The girls were slightly stunned. Looking at the sincere smile on Sun Lang's face and the gratitude and joy in his eyes, they didn't know why, but they felt suffocated in their hearts. That little bit of unhappiness disappeared. Sun Lang looked at Lin Daiyu and Shui Baochai with soft eyes and said softly, "Sister Lin and Sister Baochai, they are my cousins for the time being. When I was fighting in the army, the grandmother of Rongwa Mansion was concerned about my life. You all know that the old lady was looking forward to having a great-grandson. So she picked these two girls that she liked the most and asked them to come to the army and let me meet them. But at that time, I didn't seem to have graduated from the second year of middle school. I was always thinking about random things and was very resistant to the marriage arranged by the elders. So when my grandmother sent these two cousins to me, I refused at first. But you all know me. I definitely couldn't take the initiative to refuse such beautiful girls. Even if I didn't want to marry them, it was also good to keep them by my side for the time being. It seemed to be the first time that he was so honest, coupled with his sincere tone, not to mention Lin Daiyu and Shui Baochai. Even Yin Luo and the others couldn't help shaking their heads and laughing. As soon as I asked them to stay, they directly joined the army. No wonder they were good girls picked out by my grandmother. I thought they couldn't hold on, but I didn't expect that they gradually gained a foothold and made contributions on the battlefield and became famous. At that time, my marriage plan hadn't been implemented yet, so I didn't respond to their feelings. I always wanted to finish the war first. But after the war, sadness and sighs appeared on the girls' faces. They already knew what was going to happen next. Their emotions were stirred up by Sun Lang. In the Battle of Dahuang Mountain, I died in the war. That's what the official file said. The news that they Rongwa Mansion and the comrades in the army received was also the same. Sun Lang said softly, "What happened on Earth? I never knew. I've been wandering outside for the past 2 years. I didn't want to see anyone, didn't want to see anyone, and didn't want to hear anyone's news. Why? Because I was afraid that if I saw and heard, my heart would soften." He only said half of what he wanted to say, but everyone present was either extremely intelligent or knew Sun Lang very well. Everyone knew what Sun Lang meant by softening his heart. When did I finally receive news of Sister Lin and Sister Bao? It should be Ping Yidao who told me. That old man, at that time, didn't care about anything else and told me the news of Rongwa Mansion. I didn't even have time to stop him. Then I heard that Sister Bao and Sister Lin heard the news of my death and rushed back to Rongwa Mansion from the army. They first had a big fight, then decided to mourn for me together. 2 silly girls, there wasn't even an engagement. Grandmother only wanted to try. At that time, I even pretended to be crazy but you still did such a stupid thing. You were still so young, and your future could have been very, very good, but you wanted to do such a thing for a dead person, he said softly. 2 years, 2 years. If I don't come back, I'm afraid they'll wait until I'm in my coffin. They'll definitely do that. Sun Lang smiled again, but there was a hint of embarrassment in his smile. The girls were shocked to find that Sun Lang's eyes were a little moist. He laughed embarrassedly. How should I put it? I'm a very strange person. You could say that my heart is already twisted. Even if hundreds of thousands of people died in front of me, I probably wouldn't even blink. But if someone were to treat me well regardless of everything, I'm afraid I'll be so moved that I'll cry. I'm just such an awkward person. The unique life experiences in my early years created this strange, antisocial personality of mine. This bad habit can't be changed in this lifetime. Sun Lang sighed. He looked at Master Lu, Zhang Yinluo, and Zhao Feihuang. There are already so few people who are truly good to me in this lifetime. Now that I'm dead, there are two more. What more can I ask for? Lu Shujin and the others were slightly shocked. Lin Shui and Zhao Feihuang did not understand the subtext of this sentence, but how could they not? Lu Shujin and the others' purpose was not only to meet this legendary old lover out of a sense of competition, but also to untie this knot in Sun Lang's heart. Sun Lang learned about this from Courier. Now, this was his answer. In order to repay Lin Daiyu and Shui Baochai, who had silently sacrificed so much for him over the past 2 years, he would rather be his old self for a while than let them know the truth so hastily. Even if the two of them would still be deeply in love with him after knowing the truth, he did not want them to be shocked or at a loss. Master Lu clenched his teeth. This guy would rather expose himself and put himself in the current situation. He had been yelling about the Azura battlefield all day long, but for the sake of those two women, he would actually turn around and step into it himself. For a moment, not only Master Lu, but also Yinluo and Miss Zhao could not help but feel bitter. They even had the urge to turn around and leave. Sun Lang looked at them with calm and gentle eyes. He said softly, I was wondering why I made such a decision to gather all of you together, face you calmly, and resolve the matter between us. I was wondering what gave me the courage. It should be all of you. It's because I met you when my heart was at its coldest. He turned his head and looked at Lin Daiyu and Shui Baochai. He said softly, a few months ago, I came back from abroad and entered Mingzhou. By chance, I met Hu Shouxin, so I stayed. There, I met Yinluo. Chapter 577. Sun Lang quietly narrated the story that happened in Mingzhou. Everything started with that female cat burglar who liked to come out and steal. From the beginning, it was that silly female constable who liked to go to extremes, to eldest young Ms. Zhao of Marquis Jing'an's household who seemed to be plotting something. They accidentally discovered the secret of the demon weapon and saved Zhao Feihuang, who was being possessed by the devil. Then, the beautiful story began just like that. Sun Lang was very engrossed in his recollection and narration. Not only did Yinluo and the others smile, even Lin Daiyu and Shui Baochai's attention were attracted. Later on, I was thinking that this series of coincidences might be fate. The right person would appear at the right time. He chuckled and said, after I finished seeing this world and returned to my country, I met Yinluo when I was quietly waiting for the fateful day when the timer reached 0. At first, I only thought that she was a very interesting silly girl who was clumsy and had a childish misunderstanding of this world. She didn't know the immensity of heaven and earth at all. But this kind of girl actually let me see my silly self in the past. I don't know what kind of mood I had, but I decided to move my body and accompany her to find that troublesome female cat burglar. Even if she was a criminal, I still had to rescue her. Then, she would be punished by the law. I haven't had such a foolish thought in a very long time. Then, we actually really discovered a huge conspiracy and saved young Miss Zhao because of it. The development of the plot after that was a little bizarre. Young Miss Zhao seemed to have taken a liking to me and launched a very aggressive attack. Although she was a well-bred young lady, her style was filled with the boldness of a northerner. I have never seen such a battle before. To be honest, although I didn't show it on the surface, I was very happy inside. He looked at young Miss Zhao and chuckled. It's true. It was like a coincidence that I saved you from the hands of that weapon spirit. That weapon spirit recognized me before it died and made me remember some things that I didn't want to remember. Then you came. Your actions were very strong and wholeheartedly worked hard. It actually made me feel a little relieved. But like I said, once you're involved in a whirlpool, you won't be able to control yourself. There was a follow-up to the matter of the demon weapon. This time, a demon came. He was a horned tiger. He didn't participate in the battle at the Great Barren Mountain, but his parents did. During that bloody battle, he saw the scenes of his parents before they died and deduced some truth. Sun Lang smiled. The truth of the Great Barren Mountain is not a very good memory. He was ordered to investigate the matter of the demon weapon. In reality, he wanted to carry out its plan to take revenge on the Empire. He made a deal with Old Hu and wanted to reveal this matter to him, so that he could sow discord between some of the Tian-Yuan Empire's generals and the imperial court. However, he never expected that I would still be alive and in Ming province. I stopped Old Hu from investigating the truth. I killed the horned tiger, but it also made me recall even more memories that I didn't want to touch. The hatred in my heart erupted again, and I actually wanted to kill Old Hu. It was Yin Luo who appeared in time. Also, Chao Patao came too. This was the happiest thing for me. After not seeing him for 2 years, Chao Patao was still the same as before. He hasn't changed at all, he smiled at Zhao Yunlong. It was great that she appeared at that time. Because of that matter, Old Hu and I had disagreements. I even began to be secretly suspicious and let my imagination run wild. It was Chao Patao who appeared in time that made me suddenly realize that there were still some of my former comrades who would treat me well no matter what. Sun Lang's eyes flashed with the light of contemplation. He said in a low voice, "How do people change? It's not a sudden change, but a subtle influence." When I look back on the past, the time I spent with everyone in Ming province, it was the bits and pieces of daily life. It was the daily bickering, teasing, and joking. It was sitting together every day, eating together, chatting under the sun. There was nothing earth-shattering, and we laughed every day. That was very good. After that, things kept happening. They were all the continuation of the demon vessel incident. I was swept into this whirlpool and couldn't help myself. Things kept happening one after another. Because the horned tiger injured priest by Shui, we ran into Ping Yidao when we were looking for a doctor. Similarly, because of the horned tiger's death, another group of people came to Ming province to continue the investigation, which indirectly led to Ping Yidao's death. In order to find a good teacher for Ping Yidao's disciple, we went to Lu Town. In the end, we were swept into the changes of the demon sword K2. Aunt Lu and I finally wrote off our old grudges and untied the knot in our hearts. Then someone finally couldn't hold back anymore. He single-handedly planned the imperial envoy to the north and Xianjia to enter Ming province. One cycle after another. Everyone appeared at the perfect time. Everything happened naturally. He smiled and said, "But none of this is important. What's important is that in every matter, I made the choice that I thought was correct. Why is that? I'm clearly a sociopath who can't get rid of the resentment in my heart. I'm filled with malice and coldness toward this world. If there was a button in front of me that would destroy the world, if I pressed it, I would most likely slap it after thinking about it." Sun Lang raised his head and looked at the sky. If those people who died turned into stars, they should all be watching this world. The first time I killed someone after the Battle of the Great Desolate Mountain was to take revenge for Ping Yidao. That strike of my sword was so carefree and without a trace of regret. I erected a tombstone for him and inscribed it. I promised him that I would take care of Sima Ping. I used my experience to make up for the mistakes in Ping Yidao's medical skills and found a new teacher for Sima Ping. In the past, I didn't want to get involved in these matters at all. I insisted on getting involved in Aunt Lu's matters. I got to the bottom of the matter of the 8 distresses. I gave up on the demon sword and saved Aunt Lu's soul. I finally forgave her for her coldness toward me in the past. I got to know a good friend called Kong Zhongwu. Because he was a good friend, I didn't kill him, I killed Qin Hui. Before Qin Hui died, he released the darkness in my heart. He announced his victory and mocked me for falling to such an end. At that time, my heart was already entangled with killing and revenge. If it wasn't for a silly girl who found some clues and rushed out of the house in her Mecca. First, she rushed into her old superior's house and beat him up. Then, she rushed to Hu Shoshin's house and slaughtered a group of black armored troops to save his wife. In the end, she stopped me in time. I'm afraid that today's situation would be different. But in the end, I made the right choice. I made the choice that I thought was right. I saved my brothers as the Grand Marshal, not as an avenger who went on a killing spree. I did too many things that seemed normal but were actually quite strange. The me in the past would never have done that. It's probably because I changed. He looked at Zhang Yinluo, Zhao Feihuang, Lu Shujin, Zhao Yunlong, and even Su Qingwan. He said softly, "It's you who changed me. I don't hate this kind of change." The girls were stunned for a moment. Then they smiled faintly. "All of you are very, very good to me. I am very grateful to every single one of you." Sun Lang said calmly, "What gave me the courage to do what I did today, to call everyone here and say something to you? It's also because of your actions. To be honest, I originally made many plans. I wanted to bluff my way through this matter or run away without saying anything. I originally planned to do this. But this afternoon, I received 3 letters one after another. There was helplessness and warmth in his smile. Chao Patao sent one, Courier sent one, and the messenger from Marquis Jing'an's Fu also sent one. A certain 3 girls who planned the Azura battlefield and kept saying that they wanted to teach me a lesson. Although they said it very fiercely, their hearts still softened at the last moment. They actually secretly sent me letters at the same time. Their tones were different, but their core thoughts were very unified. They all told me that something was going to happen and that I had to act on my own. Annie Lu, Yin Luo, and young Miss Zhao were shocked at the same time. They stared at each other with an expression that said, "I didn't expect you to be this kind of traitor." But then, they laughed at the same time. "So it was like this. I originally wanted to run, but you all went to this extent for me. If I just let go and ran, that would be too outrageous." Sun Lang slowly said, "Before I left tonight, I also talked with older sister Bao. She clearly forced me into a dead end. She only needed to ask one more question, and I would have to tell her everything. But she still gave up in the end. She couldn't bear to see me in a difficult situation. You all treat me very, very well. I am very grateful. So, this plan was successfully carried out. Because it wasn't just me who wanted to gather you all together. You all also wanted to bypass me and solve this problem on your own. You didn't want to make things difficult for me. So this plan was able to be carried out smoothly. In other words, I made use of your kindness and softness. That's why I was able to calculate your actions. That's why you all obediently came over as I planned. I gathered you all together because I have something to say to you. Tonight, I must say it." The girls seemed to have a premonition of something. In an instant, they all held their breaths at the same time. Their minds were blank. Sun Lang took a deep breath. Under the moonlight, his expression was unprecedentedly serious. Every word he said was so firm, like a mountain. "I like all of you. I like all of you very much. Responding to your feelings, I express my feelings here. I like all of you." Sun Lang clenched his fists. His eyes were unwavering as he looked at everyone. Everyone could see that he was serious. Perhaps even in the most intense and serious battle, he had never been so serious. "I know that this is very shameless, very scum, very immoral, very fickle, but just accept it." Sun Lang shouted, "I don't know what to say. I don't know how to coax women. I don't know how the winners in life do it. So, I can only do it according to my own ideas. I like all of you. You have to marry me. You must marry me. You can't refuse. Otherwise, I will use all kinds of non-fatal methods to grind you down until you marry me. You know what I will do. So, whether it's pursuing or dating, let's date like a normal couple. No matter who it is, it has to be like this. Especially you two, Lin Daiyu, Shui Baochai. Your marriage is annulled. You haven't fallen in love, and you haven't proposed. This marriage has no effect. You can't steal it from everyone else. Let's start from the beginning." Sun Lang's words were fierce. Spittle flew everywhere. The girls were stunned. No one felt that it was ridiculous. No one felt angry. No one sneered. No one felt happy. Because at this moment, there was only one thought in everyone's mind. He actually said it out loud. In everyone's heart, they actually felt a little gratified. Sun Lang's tone softened a little, but it was still very fierce. Although he looked fierce and his words were very domineering, but That should be because he was nervous. He said with a serious face, I know it might be hard to accept, but I'm serious. I worked hard for 6 years, and I didn't get anything good. Now that I finally got something good, you want me to let it go? There's no way. I know your hearts might be in a mess, but I'm even more confused. But it doesn't matter. There's still a long time. I'll use both hard and soft tactics to make all of you agree. Not a single one of you can be left out. You should be mentally prepared. Everyone looked at each other. For a moment, they were at a loss. They never thought that Sun Lang would dare to go to this step. They were all at a loss and didn't know what to do. In the silence, Zhao Yunlong suddenly shouted at the top of his voice, reporting to the marshal, I'm ready. Chapter 578. Reporting to the marshal, I'm ready. In this tense and serious atmosphere, Zhao Yunlong's roar was obviously a little comedic and could easily cause the atmosphere to collapse in an instant. However, Sun Lang was still able to control the situation. He shouted, Don't interrupt. Not now. I can't let them talk now. His mind was in a whirlwind, and he immediately said to the girls who had yet to recover from their shock, I know this is very sudden, and you won't be able to accept it in such a short time. Obviously, we all need time. You need time, and so do I. Today, I gathered all of you together instead of talking to each of you in private. On the one hand, I don't want to hide anything. On the other hand, I can't do it. He looked at his hands with a somewhat gloomy expression. I can't do it. When you cry, I can't hug you tightly. When you want to turn around and leave, I can't stop you. Even when you want to hit me, I have to avoid it. I can't just stand there and let you hit me. As long as this life-threatening problem exists, I can't get along with you normally. Lin Daiyu and Xue Baochai were confused, but the girls from Mingzhou all knew what Sun Lang was talking about. Zhao Yunlong was still excited and didn't care at all. Zhao Feihuang looked at Zhang Yinluo with deep hatred, but Yinluo avoided her gaze as if nothing had happened. He was very gentlemanly. Master Lu looked like he had won the best award. His eyes were arrogant and as steady as Mount Tai. He didn't notice Zhang Yinluo and Zhao Feihuang's abnormal behavior at all. But in the next moment, their expressions changed at the same time. Because Sun Lang said, but fortunately, there's already a solution to this problem. So, the next phase of the operation will focus on this matter. The girls' expressions changed at the same time, but Sun Lang's gaze had already turned to Empress, who was sitting on the side. Previously, when Sun Lang had delivered that shocking anti-chopper speech, she had been quietly watching. Of course, she had only been watching. She sat in the corner, watching this comedy that was full of ridicule, absurdity, bitterness, and sweetness. There was no place for her on this stage. She was destined to be just a spectator. She understood in her heart that the flourishing hall, the 3,000 flowers intoxication, the beautiful story, and the innocent confession had nothing to do with her. Empress noticed Sun Lang's gaze. She raised her head, and their eyes met in the air. Sun Lang said calmly, I have to make a trip to the Qin prefecture and get a sacred sword from the Bai family. If my guess is correct, the power to resist the curse should be in the 7 luminaries' sacred sword. He paused for a moment and then said, I will travel with His Highness Empress, just the two of us. The second half of the sentence seemed to be more lethal. Everyone's eyes widened in shock. Even Empress suddenly stood up and shouted, What are you doing? You're talking. Zhao Yunlong excitedly raised his spear. Spanking. Sun Lang waved his hand and said, No, she's an outsider and is not subject to our family's laws. You should be more polite to General Tensei. Although Chao Patao felt that it was a bit of a pity, he still put down his spear. Empress's gaze was cold and sharp. She shouted in a low voice, What are you up to now? There are 3 reasons. Sun Lang was obviously much calmer when facing Empress. He didn't seem as domineering as before, but was actually flustered. He said calmly, First, I've been wanting to go to the Qin prefecture for a long time. I originally planned to leave after this matter was settled, but I know what you're capable of, Your Highness. I don't feel at ease leaving you here. Second, I started this matter in the Ming prefecture. The time was a bit rushed, and the forces of the various realms in Ming prefecture haven't been unified yet. The various arrangements haven't been made, and the news hasn't fully spread. The foreign aid hasn't arrived, and the allies haven't arrived yet. Therefore, I need time. In such a situation, stalling for time is the best choice, and letting me take you away is the most effective way of stalling for time. Firstly, there's no way to solve this problem. Secondly, your heavenly policy residents will be forced to help us cover for this. This is because the negotiation is your political mission, and it concerns your future as the crown prince and your importance in your father's heart. Your brothers will definitely cause trouble, and you can't lose. He looked at the cold-looking empress concubine and said indifferently, "As for the third, I have a debt to settle with old man Bai. To settle a debt, there needs to be a proper person. Your Highness, it would be best for you to do this." Empress said coldly, "No wonder you wanted to inquire about the holy sword. No wonder you call me here." Sun Lang smiled. "I'm ashamed. It seems that the good women I met were all tolerant and full of love. They tolerated my willfulness in every way possible, so your Highness escaped." He rubbed his hands and said with a blushing expression, "To be honest, I've already thought of a strategy to deal with them. If they were aggressive and forced me to give an explanation, then I could only play pitiful to the end and transfer all the hatred to your Highness. Then, I'll take the opportunity to raise my arms and call for an alliance. We'll cut open your stomach and dig out your heart as a sacrifice to the flag." Although they knew that this guy was talking nonsense, they couldn't help but show a disgusted expression. Empress said coldly, "You can think of that. Do you think I'll agree with you?" Sun Lang smiled. "Don't talk nonsense like that. Do you think I care about what you think?" General Tensei huffed, and her expression became a bit ugly. She understood Sun Lang's personality and methods. Since he had already made a decision, then he must have thought it through thoroughly. As expected, Sun Lang said with a smile, "I'll let your Highness know that you thought yourself clever and didn't bring the elite soldiers directly under Tensei Province. Instead, you chose the elite soldiers from the 6 armies to accompany you so that I wouldn't dare to act against the rat for fear of breaking the vases. On the contrary, you've helped me greatly. Now half of those bastards in the camp have to call me uncle. I've already written a letter and had these nephews send it back to make my old brothers happy. I think that although those old brothers won't rebel with me without a second word, they can still privately have their nephews listen to my orders. So, after we leave, your Imperial Envoy guards will be stationed in the southern part of Mingzhou and pretend to be in the middle of a discussion. They will restrict each other to prevent any traitors from rebelling. Qi Guanyin will be in charge of suppressing the overall situation." "That's very good. There's also a letter for your Tensei province. If you're not there, who's in charge? Old Du or a Fang? Forget it. I don't care who it is. Even if it's for the benefit of Tensei province, they'll have to pinch their noses and put on a show with me. They'll help me cover up what happened in Mingzhou and help me block people with bad intentions. Don't look at me like that. They'll definitely do it because I wrote this letter. You don't want to know what I said in the letter." In the end, he smiled and turned around to look at the girls present. "In summary, that's it. I'm going on a long trip. I think you all need time to digest all of this. It won't be too long. I'll be back soon. I'll bring back the solution to the problem. If you can let me hold your hands, hug you, and chase after you, just like the most ordinary man and woman." Sun Lang bowed slightly and quietly said, "I'll leave it to you all. Please don't refuse. Otherwise, I don't know what else I can do." He closed his eyes and waited for a while, but he didn't receive any reply. That's not right. Shouldn't he receive a gentle reply and a helpless shake of the head at this time? He secretly opened one eye. The girls all stood in place and looked at Chow Patao with complicated gazes. Sun Lang blinked and reacted. "I've finished speaking. You can speak freely, but please maintain order." Then, everyone's complicated gazes turned from Zhao Yunlong back to Sun Lang. They still didn't say a word. Sun Lang waited for a while and smiled awkwardly. So, say something okay." Zhao Yunlong thought hard and then said loudly, "I'm very happy. I'm very, very happy." Chow Patao finally made a contribution this time. With her sudden shout, The atmosphere couldn't be serious anymore. Everyone sighed and smiled helplessly. Inluo shook his head and sighed. I don't know why, but my mood is very complicated. I can't get angry no matter what. I don't have the strength to get angry, Lu Shujin said lightly. If this is your decision, then it's up to you. Zhao Fei Huang clasped his hands and said, Wow, Sun Lang, did you also confess to me just now? I'm really happy. I'm not like some people who won't be jealous. No matter how many people you love, as long as you have me in your heart. Zhang Yinluo couldn't bear it anymore and said, Okay, you don't have to pretend anymore. Wow, this cow dares to slander you. I'm obviously so virtuous and magnanimous. You're always cold to me, and you still have the face to talk about virtuous and magnanimous when you talk with me? Sun Lang smiled and listened to the two's daily bickering and quarreling. Then, he looked at Lin Daiyu and Shui Baochai. He didn't know the two of them. It seems that there are still many things that we don't know. Shui Baochai smiled with a complicated expression. Husband, originally, you were able to come back from the dead and was willing to accept this marriage. As your wife, I shouldn't have expected too much. Previously, I faintly thought that you might have another person in your heart. Although I was mentally prepared, when the truth was revealed, I still couldn't help but feel sad, Sun Lang said softly. I'm sorry. Lin Daiyu looked at Sun Lang quietly with tears in her eyes. She said softly, I should be angry, but I can feel that compared to 2 years ago, brother seems to be nicer to us now, so I still don't know what to do. But you should still thank them. Shui Baochai looked at Yin Luo and Shui Baochai, who were bickering, and said softly, They seem to be very good people, and they take good care of you. Lin Daiyu was obviously a little unhappy. She snorted and said, Bad woman who stole brother. Sun Lang smiled bitterly and said, No need to thank them. I just hope that you can be good friends. Alas, it may be a little difficult, but at least don't fight. Shui Baochai pursed her lips and smiled. She glared at Sun Lang and said, Do you think that I'm the kind of fierce woman who will stab my husband and the vixen to death without saying anything? Sun Lang's smile became more and more forced. Sister Bao chuckled and said, Okay, let's stop joking. We are guests, so let's go visit the owner of this place first. Don't let them wait there. Sun Lang smiled apologetically. Alas, Sister Bao is still the one who understands the big picture. Alas, at this moment, Lu Shujin came to Sun Lang's side. She put her hand on Sun Lang's shoulder as if nothing had happened. She smiled and said calmly, Don't be too restrained. I'm familiar with both sides. Let me introduce you. Shui Baochai and Lin Daiyu didn't think much of it. Suddenly, they heard a cry of surprise from the other side. They looked over curiously and saw Zhang Yinluo and Zhao Fei Huang, who were quarreling just now, looking at them in shock. Their mouths were wide open, as if they had seen something terrible. Sister Bao felt a little strange. Then, she saw that her husband also seemed to have a panicked expression of F*CK, 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 F*CK. Only Auntie Lu looked calm with a confident smile on her face, as if everything was under control. Miss Zhao finally let out a series of shocked screams. She pointed at Lu Shujin with trembling fingers and said, Yi. Lu Shujin smiled and said, What about me? Sun Lang's vision went black. Shima. Chapter 579. At this moment, after Sun Lang revealed that he was going to find the sacred sword and solve his personal problem, and after everything was settled, Annie Lu's actions were unexpected but reasonable. Among the people present, perhaps only Lu Shujin completely understood Sun Lang's meaning. She knew that finding the sacred sword and solving the curse had an inevitable connection, because when she was in Lu Town, she was also completely unable to resist Sun Lang's protective power at the beginning. But later, when her soul merged with Ji Du and obtained a part of the power of the demon sword, she was actually able to touch Sun Lang normally. Since it came from the same source as the 7 Luminary Sacred Sword and was on par with it, then since Ji Du could do it, the 7 Luminary Sacred Sword could do the same. This was Sun Lang's plan. After hearing this news, Lu Shujin felt a little regretful. In other words, she would soon no longer be the only one. She knew that Sun Lang had already made up his mind and would definitely not change it. So she felt a little regretful. If she had known earlier, she would have let him get what he wanted in Lu Town. No matter what, she would have taken the lead first so that she would not regret it now. But now it was too late to say anything. Even if she wanted to take advantage of the fact that Sun Lang had not set off for a while and secretly sneak into his room at night to do him, it was probably impossible. Since Sun Lang had already made up his mind, he would not do anything else before solving this matter. Lu Shujin, who had mixed feelings in her heart, deeply felt that fate was fickle. She had calculated everything, but in the end, it was still useless. It was really ironic. But Master Lu was Master Lu after all. After the initial loss and confusion, he thought of a way to maximize the benefits. Since things had come to this, it was better to take advantage of this opportunity to reveal it now. At least it could shock them and gain the upper hand by a show of strength. No matter what happened in the future, they would firmly remember that it was actually her who did it first. So she hugged Sun Lang as if nothing had happened. Her posture was graceful and her expression was indifferent. She wanted to show her bearing and elegance to the other competitors in advance. In fact, she had obviously succeeded. This was because she had already heard the screams of Zhang Yinluo and Zhao Feihuang. She saw the dumbstruck housekeeper Su, and even Zhao Yunlong's face was covered in snot. She couldn't help but laugh wildly in her heart. Stupid, stupid, stupid. Zhang Yinluo and Zhao Feihuang rushed over without a word. Lu Shujin looked at them with guilt and joy in her eyes. It was as if she was saying, "I'm sorry for keeping you guys in the dark for so long." She saw Zhang Yinluo carefully observe the area where their bodies touched, as if to confirm if there was really physical contact. After a few seconds of careful observation, she seemed to finally accept this cruel reality. An expression of disbelief appeared on her face, as if she was shocked by this matter. "Sigh, this girl is actually quite good. She's just a little silly." Before the thought flashed through Master Lu's mind, he suddenly saw Zhang Yinluo reach out without a word and grab Sun Lang's arm. "Sigh, why bother? It's not that Sun Lang's curse has been broken, but, her mind suddenly went blank. She saw something. That woman, the woman with big breasts, Zhang Yinluo, a silly and naive girl, grabbed Sun Lang's arm. Nothing happened. Her face didn't turn red, her body didn't tremble, and her expression didn't show panic or joy. Instead, it was shock, deep shock, and disbelief. She wasn't the only one who was shocked. Master Lu was also shocked. The confidence and calmness on his face disappeared. Master Lu stared blankly at Zhang Yinluo's hand that grabbed Sun Lang's arm. After a while, he subconsciously let out a series of exclamations. To the side, Zhao Feihuang first looked at Zhang Yinluo, then looked at Lu Shujin, and finally looked at Sun Lang. Suddenly, an expression of ecstasy appeared on her face. God knows what she was thinking, but she was clearly wrong. A big smile appeared on Miss Zhao's face. She jumped towards Sun Lang and hung on him like a koala bear, calling out happily, "Sun Lang." Everything happened so fast and so inexplicably that Lin Daiyu and Xue Baochai had no idea what they were doing or what was going on. But in the next moment, under their gazes, something indescribable happened. The moment Miss Zhao hung on him, the ending of the word Sun Lang immediately turned into a happy low hum. Her body suddenly trembled, and she kept shaking while hugging Sun Lang. From this position, people who didn't know better would think that they were playing monkey climbing on a tree. In this crisis, the loyal housekeeper, Su, rushed forward. She ignored Sun Lang's abuse of power and ignored the stunned crowd. She grabbed Miss Zhao and held her in her arms. Then, she looked at Sun Lang angrily. "Why didn't you dodge?" Miss Zhao, who was rescued, fell into Su Qingluan's arms as if drunk. Her body was still trembling subconsciously, and her eyes were a little blurred. There was a little saliva at the corner of her mouth, and her face was flushed. They were all girls. Sister Bao and Sister Lin also knew when a girl would show such a look. So, they looked at Sun Lang and exclaimed, Hey, 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 hey. Sun Lang blinked and finally came back to his senses. Wah, wah ha ha. What the F asterisk CK is going on? It's already in the bag. We've already won. What the F asterisk CK is going on? Why is it like this? He felt murderous intent coming from both sides. On the left, Zhang Yinluo was expressionless. On the right, Lu Shujin looked calm. However, the overwhelming power of Azura could no longer be controlled. Wah, Brother Chung, save me. Zhang Yinluo chuckled and asked pleasantly. Sun Lang, what's going on? Lu Shujin said indifferently. Is there anything you haven't told us? Sun Lang's face was dripping with sweat. I just don't want humans to repeat the same mistake. The two shouted in unison, speak human language. Sun Lang's mouth twitched and he shouted, You guys, I don't want to play with you anymore. You're all bullying me. I don't want to. The two of them wanted to ask more when they suddenly heard a burst of laughter. They turned around and saw the Empress concubine laughing loudly at the side. She slapped the small table beside her and pointed at Sun Lang. She laughed wildly and said, You really let me see a good show. A cold light flashed in Sun Lang's eyes. Shut up, Sao. Opportunity. He struggled slightly and immediately broke free from the two's control. He flashed to Empress. The hymn of humans is the hymn of dehydration. Empress was startled and said angrily, the difference in their martial arts was too great. Just as she wanted to raise her fist to resist, Sun Lang took advantage of the situation and wrapped her hands behind her back. This guy's talent was indeed the nemesis of women. He didn't even need to use his internal force to make a woman lose the strength to resist. With a plop, Empress was directly pressed onto the chair. Her face flushed red as she cursed. Bastard. Yinluo and Aunt Lu were too familiar with Sun Lang. They immediately understood Sun Lang's intention. This guy wanted to run. How could they let Sun Lang escape? In a flash, he rushed toward Sun Lang. Stop right there. After Sun Lang pressed Empress onto the chair, he directly lifted the chair and ran with Empress in his arms. He ran around in circles while shouting, I'm very sorry. I didn't know what to say, so I didn't say anything. I didn't do anything. I'm really sorry. I'll kneel on the washboard when I come back. I can kneel as much as I want. Yinluo roared angrily. I'll make you kneel on the bullet chain when I come back. Lu Shujin didn't want to fall behind and also shouted, I'll make you kneel on the silver needles. In short, everyone needs to get along well before I come back. Sun Lang held Empress and ran wildly, dodging Yinluo and Aunt Lu's pursuit while shouting, Chow Patao. Protect them well. Don't let them fight. Miss Zhao, I'll leave all economic and industrial expansion matters to you. Yinluo, as for the contact with the Russians, you can discuss it with Kirill. Aunt Lu, I'll leave it to you to contact our old comrades. Sister Bao, you'll be responsible for dealing with the people from Tensei province. Help us expand and consolidate our territory and power while you're at it. I'll leave the overall situation to you. Pinner, you need to get along well with everyone. You're not allowed to be in a daze all day. Empress sat on a chair and was held high in the air. Her beautiful hair fluttered in the wind, and her entire person was in a mess. She shouted wildly, Your F asterisk king dead. Hurry up and let me down. Sun Lang ignored her and continued to run in circles while shouting, I went to see Qi Guanyin before, and he already knows everything. I've made all the arrangements. You guys just need to wait here for him to lead the army over. Let's finish unifying the Imperial Envoy camp first, and then everyone can return to Mingzhou together. You need to get along well, and remember that I like you guys. I'll be back soon, and then everyone can do embarrassing things together. Then goodbye. Following Sun Lang's pitiful cries, he carried the Empress concubine, who was still cursing, and rushed down the small hill. Of course, this caused a commotion. When the Heavenly Strategy internal guards saw their master being carried on a stool and rushing down, they were dumbfounded. Just as they were about to stop him, they heard the robber laugh maniacally. Your Highness, I'll be taking her first. You guys can also lie down first. Immediately after, like a fierce tiger entering a flock of sheep, he swept them all down with a crash. Not long after, all of the Tensei internal guards had been knocked to the ground. After doing all this, Sun Lang hid his merit and reputation and stole Empress's warhorse. He still held the general of the Tensei as he galloped wildly toward the west, leaving behind a string of cries of unknown emotions. Great success in escaping from the Azura field. My ass. Why did it still end up like this? I've already King risked everything to this extent. I can't accept this, The girls rushed down the mountain. Even though the moonlight was bright, they could only see a blurry back. Hearing the cries in the wind, they couldn't help but feel both angry and amused. This mischievous fellow, he still hadn't changed at all. They looked at the smiles on each other's faces and suddenly felt their hearts move. They seemed to understand what the other was thinking and had a bit of resonance. Yes, in reality, he had never changed. Chapter 580. Jianghu. Jianghu was about youths being chivalrous, keeping their promises, and befriending the 5 heroes. Jianghu was about love and romance. Beauties were unparalleled and charming. The so-called Jianghu dream was nothing more than 10 years of hard work and entering Jianghu in one day. Just like the dreams of countless youths who yearned for Jianghu, they could either defeat the evil demons who reappeared in Jianghu, thwart the shameful schemes of the imperial court, or defeat the heroes in the Martial Arts Society Assembly and seize the throne of the world's #1. They would be admired by everyone and achieve a great career. Then, they would grow old together with the #1 beauty in the Martial Arts Society and become inseparable. Well, to summarize it slightly, it was a major event in life, and there was nothing wrong with it. For the sake of this wonderful and passionate dream, every day, many young people would step out of their homes and enter the wider world. They would inject new blood into this Jianghu, causing this Jianghu to continue to be lively. Every day, there would be stories and legends, wonderful and realistic, beautiful and cruel. Where there were people, there would be Jianghu. Where there were Jianghu, there would be disputes. In the childish and interesting dreams of these youths, the most perfect life in Jianghu was to wear a white robe and be free in the world. They rode the world's most famous horse, accompanied by the world's most beautiful woman, and they were the world's most famous swordsmen. They could travel the 9 states, uphold justice, and punish evil. It was so satisfying that they wouldn't even exchange it for the title of emperor. But today, many people who had been struggling in Jianghu finally knew that dreams were no longer just dreams. Dreams could continue because they had seen it for themselves. On the Bianan Strait Road that crossed Song State, there was a handsome man riding a beautiful woman in Jianghu. The horse was the best horse. Its hooves were like the mouth of a bull, and its body was snow white. The horse was 8 feet tall and 10 feet long. Its mane was as strong and powerful as a lion's. One could tell at a glance that it was a famous horse. The beauty was the best beauty. Her eyebrows were picturesque, and she was valiant. She looked disdainfully and was full of dignity and nobility. She was obviously a rare beauty in the world. Everything should have been perfect like this. Famous horses, beautiful women, and Jianghu. It was just like a dream countless times. The only imperfection was that the knight riding the beautiful horse was not as handsome as himself. People could not help but want to replace him. However, after the initial shock, everyone who saw this scene was dumbfounded. Wait a minute. This doesn't seem right. It doesn't seem to be carrying a beauty, but seizing a beauty. The problem was indeed with the beauty. This was because the expression of this peerless and noble beauty was not right. There was no satisfaction and happiness on her face as she accompanied her lover to travel the world. Instead, she was as cold as ice and expressionless as if she had been snatched away. What supported this statement was the current state of the beauty. She should have been riding on the same horse with her lover, leaning in his arms, looking at the scenery along the way, talking and laughing coquettishly, and sprinkling a lot of dog food on the horse. But no, not at all. Everyone who saw this marvelous scene was deeply shocked. They saw that the horse was galloping, and the white-clothed knight was riding on it. Between his eyebrows, there was the leisure of riding a horse in Jianghu. There was the free and unfettered feeling of traveling the world by himself. However, there was no pride of having a beauty in his arms. This was not surprising, because the beauty was not leaning in his arms. Instead, she was sitting on a chair that looked very expensive. And this chair was hanging on the side of this world-famous horse. Yes, it was hanging on the side. And that peerless beauty was sitting on this chair expressionlessly. She sat very steadily and was not affected by the bumpy ride of the horse at all. Like two idiots. Such a scene had not been seen in the past few hundred years. Everyone did not know why the beauty had to sit on this chair. They did not know how the chair was hung on the horse, and they did not even know why these two fellows had to ride a horse. It was because the beauty was wearing a very expensive cloak. Not to mention other things, just selling this cloak would be enough to buy several horses. The reason for all this was only known by the two parties. In fact, if the onlookers knew the true identity of these two people, they would probably be scared to death. Because this man and woman, the woman was the famous general of Tensei, the beloved daughter of the current emperor, the empress of the royal family, and she might even become the first empress of this dynasty. As for the man's identity, it was even more frightening. He was actually the #1 reactionary in this dynasty. Because he had been unfairly treated in the wrong political movement, he had the idea of taking revenge on society and destroying the country, and had done a series of big things. Not long ago, he had done something even more outrageous, and that was to kidnap the emperor's beloved daughter, which was the general of Tensei next to him. I say, if there was a Weibo here, your stickers would probably be flying all over the sky. The man laughed loudly, but only got a cold snort in return. How long do you plan to play? These two people were Sun Lang and Empress. On the night of the Azura field, Sun Lang had clearly stabilized, but at the last moment he collapsed and had to flee. This was undoubtedly a very big blow and frustration for Sun Lang, who had finally been brave for once. He was depressed for about 10 minutes, and then he attributed all the fault to Priest by Shue's unfavorable treatment. Although he ran away on the surface, he was still worried. He continued to observe in the dark until the female Azuras finished dealing with the matter and returned to Ming province. He also brought the emperor's concubine to follow them in private. After observing for a while and confirming that they wouldn't fight, he threw some stinky tofu at Daoist by Shue's bed and covered Zhang Jinyuan's head with the pot. After all this was done, he was ready to take Empress on the road. Because of this, he was once again ridiculed by the general of Tensei. Who was Sun Lang? He didn't hit, scold, or touch. He just smiled and said, "Today I'll let you experience the retro glory of Changjiang 750. Thus there was this scene now. This fellow directly tied a chair to the side of the horse, making it look like a sidecar. Then he pressed the Empress onto the chair and rode off on the horse. Everyone could imagine how retarded this scene was, especially since the person sitting in the sidecar had clearly received the majority of the retarded points. It could be said that it was extremely embarrassing. How could the Emperor's concubine obediently submit? However, Sun Lang didn't seal her acupuncture points, nor did he tie her to the chair. There was only one point. She had to sit on the chair obediently. If she moved, he would press her down. If she dared to run, he would catch her. Similarly, he didn't hit her or scold her. However, to the Emperor's concubine, this was already enough to take her life. This was because Sun Lang's touch was quite fatal to the majority of women in this world. Last time, she took advantage of Sun Lang's unpreparedness to escape, but she didn't run far before Sun Lang caught her by the back of her collar and dragged her back. Sun Lang's fingers only slightly touched Empress's snow-white neck, but it made General Tensei's body tremble as if she had been electrocuted. She felt as if hundreds of caterpillars were crawling all over her body. It was itchy, sore, and comfortable. She lost 30% of her strength in an instant. This went on for a few times. Even though Empress was skillful and intelligent, because her martial arts were too inferior, all her attempts failed. As the price, her breathing became more and more rapid. Her face became redder and redder, and her body became weaker and weaker. It took her a long time to recover. She didn't know how many times she cursed him as a pervert and a pervert. But this drizzle was nothing to Sun Lang. Empress was tired of cursing and didn't dare to try again. God knows what would happen if she continued to touch Sun Lang. If it suddenly happened, it would be a great humiliation. If that really happened, there would be no other way except to splash blood with Sun Lang. But sitting on a chair and being carried by a horse like this was really too embarrassing. Empress was indeed a woman who coveted the throne. She already had the face of a politician. She chose to forget the deep hatred between her and Sun Lang that could never be compromised. She decisively admitted defeat. I say, after playing enough, let's go buy a horse. Sun Lang shook his head. No, my snow-treading horse is unparalleled in the world. Where can I find a better horse? CKU, this is my horse. Empress endured the humiliation and said, I'll go buy it. I'll ride it. Sun Lang still shook his head. With an extra horse, cleaning and feeding will be more troublesome. Empress swallowed her anger and said, You don't have to do it. I'll do it myself. Sun Lang sighed. This horse is not cheap, and the feed cost is not small either. My heart hurts. Empress finally couldn't bear it anymore. CKU, didn't you spend my money all the way here? Did I spend a single copper coin from you? Sun Lang stared and said, What do you mean by your money? That's obviously my money. Whatever I like, it's all mine. Damn, so angry. Empress almost went crazy. She had never suffered such a big loss in her life. Originally, after being humiliated like this, she should fight without saying anything. With her unyielding character, she would definitely fight with the other party. Even if she wasn't a match for him, she would use her teeth to bite off 2 pieces of meat from the other party so that the enemy wouldn't dare to underestimate her. She wouldn't lose the prestige of the royal family, but Sun Lang was too strange. Originally, there was a huge gap between the two of them. Even if 100 of her were stacked together, she still wouldn't be a match for Sun Lang. However, the level of martial arts wasn't the key. The key was that this bastard had practiced a perverted evil skill from who knows where. When fighting with her, he didn't even need to fight back. He only needed to touch her casually, and her strength would be drained. Her whole body would be sore and weak, and she would no longer have the strength to fight back. He was shameless. Although this method was shameless, it was very effective. So much so that the staunch Highness Empress didn't even have the chance to fight back. Just like this, she couldn't win in an argument, couldn't win in a fight. Even if she plotted something or occasionally gained the upper hand, the other party only needed to casually poke her a little, and all her accumulated advantages would instantly collapse. Damn, so angry. No, I can't go on like this. I must find a way to fight back. Otherwise, these days won't end. Chapter 581. Her Highness Empress did have a reason to be impatient. That bastard Sun Lang's intentions were clear at a glance. He had used such a shocking method to swagger through the city and gallop all the way from Ming Province. As long as the people in the provincial capital had eyes, they would definitely have seen it. Perhaps it wouldn't be long before an open secret would circulate among the court and the common people. The person who must not be named had kidnapped Her Highness Empress and was running around. Not to mention how shameful it was to show off in such a way. From a political point of view, if this matter was known by her royal brothers, they would definitely make a big fuss about it. How tempting was the position of the Supreme Emperor? It was the supreme power and the position of supremacy. For thousands of years, there had been countless open and secret fights and bloody battles. For this position, countless families had been destroyed, and even father and son had become enemies, and brothers had turned against each other. In order to fight against potential competitors, there was nothing that couldn't be done. She was very clear about the difference between a tacit secret and an open secret. If this kind of shameful appearance was seen by people who knew her identity, who knew what would happen, Sun Lang glanced at her and seemed to know what she was thinking. He said gently, Don't be afraid, don't be afraid. Isn't this your chance? Look at us, traveling arm in arm and riding on the same horse. How close and friendly we are. This is undoubtedly a signal to the outside world. Shocking. The former chairman of the Central Military Commission actually supports this person. He said earnestly, "So, your brother should be worried. After all, they don't know about the shameful things you've done." Empress looked at him coldly. "I'm afraid you are trying to drive a wedge between my father and me." Sun Lang laughed. "Who doesn't know that your father-daughter relationship is stronger than gold? Your relationship has already surpassed that of Xiao San and Ailey. Even if I drive a wedge between you, I can't change your father's determination." Empress felt that Sun Lang's smile was filled with inexplicable mockery and ridicule, but she did not think too much about it. Originally, Sun Lang had an absolute reason to hate the imperial family, and he did not have a good impression of her father. It was normal for him to mock the so-called trust of the imperial family. Thus, she directly said, "If you have played enough, we should talk about business." Sun Lang laughed strangely. "What if I haven't played enough? After sitting on the sidecar, we can still try the three-wheeler." Empress ignored him and continued, "You are going to Qin province to retrieve the gold radiant sacred sword. Do you want the Kata demon sword?" Sun Lang's smile faded slightly. "Go on," General Tensei said. "You've said it before. Although we hate each other and can't wait to kill each other, the current situation is delicate and both of us have scruples. We can't act immediately, so we might as well talk about the conditions. This time I was suddenly ambushed by you and had no way to deal with it, so I accepted it. Now that we have to spend some time together, we might as well set some rules." Sun Lang picked his nose and said arrogantly, "Why? I still prefer to use different methods to torment you." "Boring," Empress said coldly, "teasing me in exchange for a moment of pleasure. Compared to actual benefits, what is more important? At the very least, compared to the sense of accomplishment gained from teasing me, you need the sacred sword more." Empress had heard what Sun Lang said that night. Although she still did not understand the connection between Sun Lang's perverted cultivation method and the sacred sword, and did not know why Sun Lang needed the sacred sword to suppress this power, for Empress, knowing the reason was enough. Sun Lang waved his hand and said, "Just tell me your bargaining chips." Empress had long been used to the way he spoke, so she was not surprised. She said directly, "Your martial arts are extraordinarily high. In theory, there should be nothing in this world that you can't get. But this is only in theory. There are always variables in the world. Although your martial arts are high, I also have advantages that you don't have," she said calmly. "Intelligence, information, contacts, clues, financial resources, relationships. I have been operating in Tensei province for a long time and have countless secret agents. I have a wide circle of friends and spies all over the world. These are my bargaining chips, and you will never know how much I have. In other words, only when I am willing to take the initiative to help you will they play the greatest role. Otherwise, even if you force me in every possible way, I won't yield even a little bit." Sun Lang looked at her from the corner of his eyes. To be honest, he really wanted to know to what extent the great protective power could be used to. For example, could it turn a strong-willed, opinionated, and decisive woman into a sow? But thinking about it was just thinking. He would not do it because this woman was not even qualified to be a sow. She was destined to only have one ending, because some things, once started, might not be able to be stopped. Just like an ordinary person who was bullied all day long, once he had the power to change the world and was not restrained, he would basically fall into depravity very quickly. Gradually, his nature would change greatly, and he would see himself as a god and treat all living beings as ants. He would do things that seemed very cruel in the past without any psychological burden. When he, Sun Lang, began to use the great protective power to satisfy his own desires, he was not far from the planter. Moreover, the most important thing was, even if she became a sow, he could not *CK her. She would be dehydrated just by touching her. If he poked her, she would probably be directly mummified, while he was letting his imagination run wild. Empress said again, "You are in Mingzhou, so maybe you don't know about the demon sword. The little girl who picked up the demon sword is from the demon race, and her personality is more naive and pure. After all, she came from that place. Oomph. You know the saying that a man's wealth is his own ruin. A little girl who picked up a divine weapon that can fight against the 7 luminaries. I don't need to tell you what will happen. Sun Lang frowned and said, You said before that the Jianghu, the government, and even various illegal organizations and even foreigners are looking for her. That's right. Empress nodded and said, According to the report from the spies in Tensei province, the little girl is extremely vigilant about everything. She does not interact with anyone and does not believe anyone's words. She also has Ji-Do to protect her. No matter if it is coaxing her or robbing her, no one can succeed. At first, she was heading towards the east. Her destination is unknown. But as the news spread, the matter became bigger and bigger, and the people who are looking for her trouble are no longer cats and dogs, but more troublesome people. Martial arts masters, strong masters, secret agents of the imperial court, elites of various governments. Even if she has the demon sword in her hand, she can only keep running. Sun Lang waved his hand and said, That's good. Let those idiots snatch it first. After they get it, I will come out and stop her. You think too much. If you get a divine weapon, will you still show it off to the world? Won't you go into hiding and tame the divine weapon before coming out? Empress said coldly, Let me give you a piece of advice. If you want to get the demon sword, it is best that you snatch it while it is still in the hands of that little monster. This way, you will be a more obvious target. If you're not careful and some small fry gets it and hides on the spot, you will be in trouble. Sun Lang looked at her with a half-smile. So, I have to rely on your Highness's intelligence network. I am just giving you a suggestion. It is up to you whether you want to use it or not. Empress said coldly, The Bai clan is in Sichuan. No matter what, the Bai clan cannot run away. And that little monster is running around everywhere. She might die in the next moment. The demon sword is nowhere to be found. You decide what to do. Sun Lang smiled and said, Then you should go and find the old man. Your offer is not attractive at all, so you can continue to ride the sidecar. Are you kidding me? You think I can't find the demon sword? The B*TCH is still working as a sword spirit in there. With that lousy kid's temper, as long as I bring Master Lu here and shout, Hey, single dog, are you happy? It will fly into a rage and drag the sword master over to Mount Wu for some fresh air. Empress's expression changed slightly. Then she said coldly, So, you were just going to sit there and watch that little monster get killed? Previously, when her identity as a monster was exposed, it gave those people a more righteous excuse. Sun Lang looked at her like she was an idiot. What does that have to do with me? Do I look like a good person who will help when I see injustice? Empress looked at him and suddenly shook her head. It seems that you have been scared out of your wits by your female friends. You still haven't recovered from your shock, Sun Lang said unhappily. What do you mean? What do you mean by scared out of my wits? Am I such a coward? The Empress concubine glanced at him again and then slowly said, Although I don't know what's going on with your perverted evil technique, from your performance and what you said that night, only the 7 luminaries' sacred sword or a power of the same origin as it can resist this technique of yours. So, Lu Shujin, who has the power of the demon sword, can touch you normally. Sun Lang glared and said, So what? Looking at Sun Lang's appearance, Empress suddenly had the urge to burst into laughter. Anyway, she had laughed out loud that night. How sad. This pervert, who had a perverted heart, but no guts, who had been shouting obscenities all day long and even daring to talk about a harem. She didn't expect that he would end up like this. He couldn't even touch women normally. However, she endured it. She couldn't laugh. If she laughed, something bad would happen. With this guy's narrow-mindedness, he would definitely take revenge. She controlled her urge to laugh out loud with great self-control and said slowly, In other words, women who can resist your evil martial arts are very rare, and precious, right? Just like that big-breasted Zhang Yinluo. With such big breasts, shameless. To be able to resist this kind of evil martial arts, she is also very shameless. Twice as shameless. Sun Lang glared and said, What's wrong? Empress sighed. This guy was really scared out of his wits by those women. He still hadn't reacted until now. So, that little demon, are you really willing to let her be hacked to death? Sun Lang was stunned for a moment and suddenly jumped up. Damn, I didn't notice this, he said without hesitation. So many humans bullying a cute little demon. It must be the fault of those ugly and despicable humans. I am on the side of justice. Hurry up and save her. Chapter 582. In the southwest of Song Province, north of the Yao River, there was an endless stretch of lofty mountains known as the Huaichuan in ancient times. It was mountainous, dangerous, and inconvenient. It was the border between Qin Province and Song Province. The combination of many negative conditions led to the underdevelopment of the economy. After all, transportation was inconvenient, and everything was difficult to do. But at the same time, the barren hills and turbulent rivers produced unruly people. The harsh environment led to fierce folk customs. Every year, in the nearby villages, there would be collective activities such as fighting over the right to use water. In such a poor place, the taxes collected every year were few and many people died due to fighting. The poor and fierce people were the most troublesome thing for the local officials. If you couldn't collect taxes, the annual assessment would be a low grade. If you forced the tax collection, it might incite a rebellion among the people. The country bumpkins would carry manure forks and hose and fight with the tax officials. If things didn't go well, you might lose your job. Therefore, just like how there were always one or two worse positions in prison for the most unpopular prisoners, the Huaichuan County was prepared for the most unpopular county magistrate in Song Province. Although the Huaichuan County was poor now, it used to be prosperous. During the Great War of Tianyuan, the imperial court needed an endless source of soldiers, and the whole country was recruiting soldiers. The Huaichuan County was barren and full of unruly people who didn't fear death. With a little training, they were like a pack of howling wolves. Therefore, it became a delicious cake in the eyes of the Song Province's military officials. At that time, the high-ranking officials would come today and ask about the weather tomorrow. The surrounding villages were filled with a touching atmosphere of the officials and the people being united as a family. The local officials made wishes with all their might, summarizing the life trajectory of joining the army to serve the country, achieve great merits, and reach the pinnacle of life to marry the daughter of a rich family. Who knew how many fools they coaxed never returned? After the war ended, they left and didn't care about anything anymore. After all, it was quite embarrassing. After decades of war, who knew how many young people had left the Huaichuan County, but there wasn't a single rank for military official. The officials of Song Province weren't afraid of burning the bridge after crossing it. In less than 2 years, the Huaichuan County quickly became deserted. Barren hills and turbulent rivers produced unruly people. Everyone was like before, doing what they should do. However, that was in the past. Now things had changed. It had been a long time since Huaichuan was bustling with activity. However, the people who came this time were not the lords who had come to recruit soldiers, but some martial artists who had brought their weapons. Monks and nuns, men and women, old and young, sabers, spears, swords, halberds, all kinds of black-clothed people, cloaked people, monks, immortals, fiendish fiends, extraordinary bearings, all kinds of strange weapons, all kinds of ugly things gathered in one place. All kinds of "I've heard so much about you," and "I'm glad to meet you" never stopped. The people cupped their fists and bowed, hugging each other warmly, chatting and laughing as they bowed in a dignified manner. They were all martial artists of all kinds. It was very impressive, very dignified, and very impressive. This group of 4 martial artists had pulled up the morality and politeness index of Huaichuan by 50 points out of thin air. The simple people of Huaichuan who usually only knew how to say F***ck your mother, F***ck your ancestors, and F***ck your mother were all stunned. Those who did not know better would think that there was a martial arts convention here. But just like how once a simple place had a business opportunity and became a so-called tourist attraction, the leisure of the locals would be gone forever. What followed was a sharp decline in public security and the booming development of the tertiary industry. Many shrewd businessmen followed the martial arts army into Huaichuan, wanting to take advantage of this once-in-a-century business opportunity to make a fortune. As for the brothel girls who came from the nearby counties, they were laughing so hard that they could not close their legs. Yes, this is very martial arts. Sun Lang obtained great satisfaction from the magnificent scenery in front of him. It must be known that he had been fighting for the past 6 years, and the last 2 years he had been mainly wandering around abroad. He had no chance to experience the original taste of Jianghu. Now he could finally personally experience it and get what he wanted. For someone who once had a martial arts dream, it was really a very good experience. Just like how an otaku had always hoped to go to the 2D dimension, his childhood dream had finally come true. This made him happy and sad at the same time, because if a childhood dream was only realized when he grew up, could it still be called a dream? When he was young, he liked to play with marbles and always longed for a lot of marbles. But when he grew up, he could easily buy a house full of marbles, but that joy was gone, because he had changed. He had grown up, and the Sun Lang who had realized his martial arts dream and seen the martial arts scene with his own eyes was no longer the Sun Lang of the past. Even if he got what he wanted, he had long changed. He was no longer the same person as before. Why did he say that? Because, I say, sister, what is the most important thing in the new era of business? It's packaging and marketing. What is packaging? The big peaches you pick in the mountains are juicy and sweet. If you take them to the market and buy them, they will only cost 1 copper coin. But if you put them on the desk of a high-ranking official and say that they are famous peaches of immortality, their wealth will increase by 1,000 times. You are thinking, using you as an example, you are also in the flesh business, but you want to attract customers on the street. But the so-called famous prostitute only needs to sit upstairs, play a song, or write a poem, and a group of officials and rich people will climb up. 100 taels of silver. They can only play a tea party together. They can't even do anything. Sun Lang said earnestly, "What is the difference? You are also smooth, you dress up diligently, and your appearance is not bad. How did you get to this point? What is the difference? It's not anything else. It's marketing. It's packaging." He pointed to the endless stream of people and said, "Packaging. You have to find the right medicine for the disease." The rich people like the cultured, famous prostitutes. The fat otakus like the two-dimensional young ladies who cosplay. These Jianghu people, of course, like the noble and charming chivalrous women. You have to package into a chivalrous woman, not to sell but to find love. Before he could finish, the gorgeously dressed young lady across from him impatiently said, "Young man, why are you being so uncouth? Why are you spouting these unintelligible truths? You Jianghu people are all strange. The monk I picked up last time had to recite scriptures before going to bed. After being touched by me, didn't he still throw Buddha behind the wall?" After saying that, she stretched out her delicate hand and touched Sun Jingrong's lower body. Sun Lang was startled and stepped back. Hey, what are you doing? Are you sexually harassing me?" The young lady's expression also changed. She spat. "You are also lecherous but have no guts. You only know how to talk happily. You are wasting my time." She was swift and decisive. She turned around and left, completely ignoring the earnest teachings of Sun Jingrong, who came from modern society and was well-versed in business techniques. Sun Lang was stunned. He subconsciously stretched out his hand and wanted to stop the young lady. But the next moment, he put down his hand with slight regret and smacked his lips. "You really don't know what's good for you." Indeed, people have changed. When he was young, the Sun Lang who was obsessed with the world of martial arts, who dreamed of being chivalrous, who could create 18 dragons with one slap, was gone forever. The pure him of that year, even if his head was cracked open, he would never have thought that after many years of successfully transmigrating to Jianghu, he would actually be telling this kind of thing to a young lady. Disdainful laughter came from behind. Empress came out of the darkness. At this time, the sky was getting dark and the lights were on in the distance. She was wearing a black cloak and a luxurious fur set off her beautiful and arrogant face. She was domineering and not inferior to men. She had the image of a shrewd and capable woman. At this time, her face was full of sarcasm. That woman is just a prostitute who deals in the flesh business. She has been rolling in a mortal world, and her innate spirituality has long been worn out. She has become vulgar. Do you still expect her to be untainted? It would be strange if she would listen to you if you told her this. Sun Lang spread out his hands and said, "She missed out on at least 100 million. Empress said coldly, "You could have given her an ingot of gold first, and then you would have read the heavenly book to her for the whole night. She would have listened more seriously than anyone else." Sun Lang looked up to the sky and laughed. "Am I that kind of fool?" General Tensei said indifferently, "Are you not?" Speaking of which, it was infuriating. Who knew how crazy this bastard was playing today? Originally, there were people from all walks of life here. Because of the gathering of martial artists, it was crowded with all kinds of young people who did not have much experience in Jianghu, and stupid rich kids who were eager to live in the martial arts world. These people were the easiest to kill. For example, there were some people who sold Dolly pills, Tianshan Snow Lotus, Sariras, and the like. It was said that eating one pill could increase one's power by 60 years, and drinking one mouthful could increase one's strength by 3 times. All of them boasted about it to the heavens, and said that golden lotuses would bloom from the ground. They specialized in deceiving the big fat sheep. Therefore, this shameless Sun Lang actually put on the sheep's skin and asked for the price with an innocent face. When he heard that the Dolly pills were 300 taels each, he obediently took Empress money to buy them. He did not even pay back the price. This was also not the most ridiculous thing. The most ridiculous thing was that after this guy ate it on the spot, his face suddenly glowed with a golden light, and his blood and chi surged. He roared and slapped the tree beside him into a pile of wood dregs. Then he was ecstatic. He repeatedly said that this magical medicine was really effective and took out 3,000 taels of silver to buy 10 pills in one go. He swallowed them on the spot. With every pill he ate, his power would increase by 3 times, and the special effects would also be 3 times more dazzling. When he ate the 3rd pill, the old man who was known as the Medicine King family finally could not take it anymore. He directly knelt down and kowtowed to beg for mercy. Sun Lang then took back the money with interest. This was not the only thing he had done. In just one day's time, who knew how many tricks he had come up with? He had made these evil forces from all walks of life complain incessantly. They were completely crazy. When Empress thought of this matter, she was furious. Sun Lang, was having a good time, but she was a Tensei general. Not only did she have to follow Sun Lang around and embarrass herself, she also had to find time to mobilize people and gather intelligence. Did she have it easy? Perhaps it was Empress' accusing gaze that awakened Sun Lang's remaining conscience. Or perhaps it was because he was finally tired after playing around for an entire day. Sun Lang smiled and asked, "How's the matter going?" That's right. The small Huichuan had suddenly become a gathering place for martial artists, so much so that the 2 of them had come here for the same thing: the birth of a divine weapon. It was said that a divine weapon that was not inferior to the 7 luminaries' sacred sword had been unearthed. This kind of treasure would definitely belong to the virtuous. In the Jianghu, a famous sword naturally belonged to a hero. Thus, many people moved when they heard the news, like sharks that had gathered for blood. In addition, the accounts of many witnesses confirmed the authenticity of this matter. Regardless of their martial arts level or status, more and more people joined in. Everyone had different goals. Some wanted to possess this divine sword to increase their combat strength. Some wanted to offer this sword to the imperial court or a famous clan in exchange for promotion. Some simply wanted to join in the fun and have some fun. There were also some who wanted to fish in troubled waters and see if they could get some benefits. No matter what, this was a major event that had shaken the martial arts world in recent years. The Tensei province has been paying attention to the whereabouts of Jidu, especially after they found out that you did not obtain this sword. Empress's expression turned ugly when she mentioned the matter of Lu Jun being intercepted. At that time, after they found out, they arranged for people to be recruited or robbed. However, that little demon was from the demon clan and had a very strong spiritual sense. The spirit of Ji-do was also quite hostile to us. After several arrangements were seen through, she escaped without a trace. She said, "After all, it's the demonic sword of Ji-do, although it's not that we can't do anything to her. Sending out a master of that level would cause too much of a commotion." At that time, the news had already been completely leaked. More than one family was paying attention to this matter. If I do something too conspicuous, it would easily attract the attention of those with ulterior motives and even leave behind a source of gossip. Sun Lang smiled. Her bitchy personality was already leaning towards psychological perversion. No one could predict what she would do. It was normal for her to ignore the Tensei province. Empress continued. Therefore, the Tensei province's strategy is to wait and see. They are only paying close attention to the movements of the demonic sword. Now that they are being chased all the way, many masters have become tempted. Even if that little demon has Ji-do in her hands, it is gradually becoming difficult to deal with them. Now that they have been chased to the Huaichuan region, a pocket array has been set up around them, trapping them in the mountains. It is only a matter of time before they are found. Sun Lang nodded. Indeed, after today, I have seen a lot of stubborn people. I remember their faces clearly. When the time comes, I will take the brick and teach them the unique skills of the urban management. Empress could not help but think of Sun Lang holding a brick and smashing the reputable masters of the martial arts world to the ground one by one. Then, she felt that it was somewhat amusing. She said coldly, "You have nothing better to do. You don't care about your identity at all. Why did you come to the martial arts world to cause trouble?" Sun Lang said proudly, "What do you know? It's a tradition of our dynasty for the layman to guide the experts. Let me tell you, if I didn't know the cause and effect of this matter, I would definitely suspect that you guys are the culprits. Tell me, didn't the imperial court throw an imperial weapon into Jianghu every few years to set off a reign of terror and let this group of people fight each other and die on the ground, so that it would be easier to manage and prevent more and more people from the martial arts world and form a situation where the tail is too big to handle?" Empress Tensei's expression changed when she heard this. Then, she said coldly, "It seems that I should have made you the chief of the martial arts world and let you control this group of people. You have so many ideas." Chapter 583. Looks like I should have made you the leader of the Wolin Alliance and let you control this group of Jianghu people. You have so many ideas. Empress's tone was subtle. It was unknown whether she was mocking him or being sincere. Sun Lang was always like this. He would often casually say some shocking things while chatting and laughing. Of course, some of it was nonsense, but there was also a part of it that, in retrospect, had a very deep meaning. Even back then, the Emperor's concubine would sometimes be very jealous of this guy, who came from another world. What kind of opportunity and good fortune was this? One person could live two lives. In terms of prosperity and power, the world he came from was even better than here. Not to mention other things, just the weapons that could destroy the world were simply things that the Empire could not imagine or understand. The most frightening thing was that the biggest difference between the humans there and here was that every single one of them was extremely ordinary. Their lifespans were limited, and they could not practice profound martial arts. They did not have the mysterious power that surpassed nature, and they did not have the forbidden knowledge that the sky demon had left behind. Everyone was an ordinary person with all the flaws that mortals had. They were dark, despicable, selfish, weak, and fickle. Even their most powerful warrior would not be able to defeat a small sergeant in the Imperial Guard. Such a weak and pitiful race was simply a paradise for conquerors. When the Emperor's concubine learned of this situation, her first thought was to find a way to open up a passage and plunder that world to establish a new territory. But very quickly, she dispelled this thought. Because in Sun Lang's description, the strength of the humans in that world was simply beyond everyone's imagination. Because of their limited strength, they placed more emphasis on intelligence and the power of the group. Moreover, they became stronger and stronger under the endless drive of desire. In just a few hundred years, they achieved an unimaginable leap forward. They did not have the help of the legacy of the Sky Demon War. At first, she thought that Sun Lang was bragging, but later, she had no choice but to believe it. This was because a person could not lie so perfectly. That was the development of thousands of years of civilization. All kinds of changes in government, and comprehensive progress in politics, culture, art, and technology. There were many great masters and illustrious people. The knowledge brought about by the fruit of civilization that was condensed from countless wisdom was not something that a braggart could imagine out of thin air. So how lucky was this person to be able to carry the brand and mark of his civilization to come into contact with a completely different civilization in another world? What he casually said might be common knowledge to him, but to the people of this world, it might be something that some great master or sage could not understand in their lifetime. Thinking of this, Empress sighed in her heart and lowered her eyes. Perhaps some things were destined from the beginning to possess the knowledge of another civilization, as well as the powerful martial arts and terrifying military ability of this world. This kind of person was destined to make anyone in power unable to eat or sleep well. Even if he had no enmity with the empire, it was enough to attract the killing intent of the emperor. Even if he had no enmity with the empire like he would still be enough to attract the emperor's killing him. Even if he had no enmity with the empire, he had attracted the emperor to kill him. Him was a person's empires. This was all destined, and it could not be escaped. Sun Lang naturally did not know that Empress was sighing in her heart. After he heard that, as expected, he trembled again and began to talk nonsense out of habit. A mere martial arts alliance leader. Isn't this too much of a waste of talent? But it sounds very interesting. Why don't we set up a leading group for the deepening of the martial arts reform, with me as the group leader? We will comprehensively promote the industrialization, commercialization, and modernization of martial arts culture, go out of the country and into the world, and establish a scientific industrial model for standardized development. Under Empress's helpless gaze, he counted with his fingers and said, "First of all, I'm very curious. What is the Martial Arts Assembly for? To choose a Martial Arts Alliance leader? Bullsh *T. The Martial Arts Alliance leader is only one person. Everyone gathered together just for one person's carnival? Of course not. We have to have a win-win situation. So, the Martial Arts Assembly is obviously the trump card of the local government to boost the economy. Make it big. Do it well. Make it strong. Want advertisements. Want sponsorship. Want shady deals. What 4 great masters of the martial arts world, 8 beauties of the martial arts world, top 10 experts rankings, all-knowing scholar of the martial arts world. Rank my ass. This kind of civilian ranking with no credibility has no future. The imperial court must have the sole right to explain. If you want to be on the list, pay up. If you don't pay up, we'll suppress you. Collect dirt on you. Ruin your reputation. Hire a water army to defame you. For example, if you want to be one of the top 10 richest men in the martial arts world, you don't have to pay up. I'll put you on the list myself. Let our friends in the martial arts world know how much wealth you have. In the future, if you don't have money to spend, you can go to your house. Being on the list is equivalent to being roasted on a fire. Today you're targeted by Marshal Chu, tomorrow you'll be targeted by the heroes of Liangshan, and the day after tomorrow you'll be targeted by the officials. How does it feel to be on a list? If you don't want to be on the list, pay up and pay taxes. You have to pay taxes in the martial arts world. I don't care if you're from a demonic sect or a holy sect. You have to pay taxes. Whatever demonic empress, whatever holy monk, they all have to *King pay taxes. If you don't pay taxes, the National Tax Bureau will come knocking at your door in a matter of minutes. I don't care if you're a fairy with countless suitors or a mischievous demoness. They'll bind you with a black iron chain and handcuff you to the heating radiator of the National Tax Bureau. You can only leave after you've paid enough taxes and late fees. And these level 4 and 6 certificates. Okay, don't say any more. Empress rubbed her forehead and said with a headache, if you really do everything according to these methods, the martial arts world will be completely ruined. You've thought it through so thoroughly, you don't really want to be the chief of the martial arts world, do you? Sun Lang looked at her as if she was an idiot. I'm not an idiot. If I don't want to be a national official, why would I want to be the president of a martial arts association? What's the point of tormenting these martial arts world people? It's better to torment your whole family in the imperial court. Empress heard this, and her expression turned cold. She turned and walked away. Nothing good comes out of dog's mouth. Sun Lang chased after her. Hey, where are you going? General Tensei seemed to be a little angry and didn't answer Sun Lang's question. Sun Lang asked twice but didn't get an answer. He rolled up his sleeves and said, do you want to sit here and do a round of wrestling again? Empress took a deep breath and said after a moment, let's find a place to stay. How is it possible to find a place? Sun Lang curled his lips and said, didn't you see it during the day? Those merchants who sell tents and sleep in the wild have made a lot of money. Now the Huichuan County is like a tourist attraction during the peak season. The hotels are shabby and expensive. It's up to you to stay or leave. How can there be a place to stay? Even if you have money, it's useless. The good places have been taken by the rich people who arrived first. Empress didn't stop walking and said sarcastically, don't you know how to rob? Sun Lang said with a smile, why would I rob? Look, there's so many people here. At night, we can stroll around, fish, find a quarrel, eavesdrop, and scare the mandarin ducks. Wouldn't that be perfect? The Emperor's concubine quickened her pace and threw down a sentence. Then go be beautiful by yourself. The more she said this, the more Sun Lang wanted to know what she was up to, so he trotted to catch up with her. The two of them walked straight along the night road in the county. The Huichuan County was a place where the people were tough and poor. Naturally, it was very different from other places. If a group of Jianghu people with knives and swords suddenly rushed into other places, the people would probably lock their doors before the sky turned dark, afraid that a hero would come in. But this place was really different. Although it was poor, the villagers' concept was extremely advanced. They already had the awareness of rural tourism and homestays. Along the way, they would often hear shouts, saying that their family had a straw hut that cost a certain amount of copper coins per night, and so on. A clean tiled house that cost a certain amount of silver per night, and so on. Furthermore, these people had sharp eyes and knew how to pick people. Those who wore tattered clothes and had fierce faces were clearly people who couldn't afford to pay but had the ability to dine and dash were definitely not to be entertained. However, for women like the Empress concubine who wore expensive clothes and was extremely beautiful, even if they didn't have to pay, they still had to invite her in for a chat. So along the way, General Tensei had received a lot of enthusiastic hospitality. However, this dignified empress was not at all close to the people. She didn't talk much either. Tianyuan Blade mobilized the Imperial Army's Imperial Aura. 2 bright rays of golden light shot out from his eyes, and a simple word of scram scared the simple bachelors out of their wits. Look at you, Sun Lang commented out of boredom. As a member of the royal family, how can you be so arrogant and abominable? You don't take the lovely working people seriously. They're the cornerstone of this country. Come on, Empress said in a Sunran tone. Cornerstone? They don't deserve it. Warriors and officials are the cornerstone of this country. As for these people, they are at best leaks. Once you cut them off, they will grow again. I've read many history books. In the history of China, there have been countless dynasties, but I've never heard of a country bumpkin who could achieve great things. Sun Lang just smiled. This question was not worth any discussion or debate. Soon, they arrived at their destination. 2 stone lions were squatting in front of the door. There were red lanterns, yamen runners, and drums. It was the county office of Huichuan County. Sun Lang blinked and understood Empress' intention. Damn it, power is so dirty. I have to live in the county office directly. Empress ignored him. There were already a few people waiting in front of the office. When they saw the two coming, a few of them immediately rushed over and knelt on the ground. "Greetings, my lord." They should be the henchmen of Tensei province. Another person followed behind. He looked like a young man in his late 20s. He had 2 tufts of beard. He came forward and bowed respectfully. "I'm Lin Wuying, the county magistrate of Huaichuan County. Greetings to General Tensei." Empress nodded slightly. "You don't have to be so polite, County Magistrate Lin. It's my presumptuous visit. I hope I didn't inconvenience you." County Magistrate Lin straightened up and cupped his fists. "It's my honor to have your highness in my county. It's just that Huaichuan County is in dire straits, and the county office is in disrepair. Your highness might not be used to living here. It's okay. I'm not a spoiled person." Empress glanced at Sun Lang. "Don't worry about him. He has to enjoy his beauty tonight." Lin Wuying's gaze fell on Sun Lang. He seemed to be a little confused about the identity of the person in front of him. Sun Lang was very good-tempered. When he saw County Magistrate Lin looking over, he waved his hand and smiled. "Hi." Lin Wuying saw this and cupped his fists. "I'm Lin Wuying of Huaichuan County. May I know your name?" "You don't have to be so polite, County Magistrate Lin." Sun Lang smiled amiably. "You could just call me your highness." As soon as he said that, County Magistrate Lin and a few henchmen from the Heavenly Policy Mansion were dumbfounded. They had lived for so long, but they had never seen such a fierce person who dared to talk like this. It was as if an old man was tired of living after eating arsenic. Originally, when they met such an audacious thief who deceived the emperor, they would either kill him or immediately capture him and send him to the death row prison. However, the situation now was a little strange. They all turned to look at His Highness Empress. There was a message in their eyes. "He said he was your father. You can do as you see fit." His Highness Empress's face was cold and serene. "Just treat him as a lunatic. Ignore him." So, well, they should just pretend nothing had happened? County Magistrate Lin reacted quickly. He immediately stretched out his hand and said, "Please come in. This is not the place to talk. Let's talk inside." He led them into the county yamen. There were lanterns hanging inside. As a county yamen, it was indeed a little worn out, but it was still clean and tidy despite its shabbiness. They went straight into the back hall. As they walked, Sun Lang cast a sidelong glance at County Magistrate Lin and suddenly said, "County Magistrate Lin, when did you give His Highness a certificate of allegiance?" County Magistrate Lin was shocked. He then smiled and said, "Young master, what are you saying?" Before he could finish, Empress said coldly, "There's no need to hide it. This matter can't be hidden from his eyes. He saw through it long ago." Lin Wuying was startled. He then smiled bitterly and said, "I thought my acting was very good. I didn't expect to be seen through at a glance." Sun Lang smiled but didn't say anything. The reason was really not to be told to outsiders. In fact, it was very simple. Empress had been secretly kidnapped by him. Huaichuan was a place with limited information. Not to mention that Empress had been kidnapped. County Magistrate Lin might not even know that the imperial envoy had gone north to Mingzhou. But no matter what, how could she casually show such a shameful thing in front of a civil servant in the system? Moreover, based on County Magistrate Lin's performance just now, with his speech, EQ, age, and martial arts, he couldn't be a failure. How could he be sent to a damned place like Huaichuan? Empress added indifferently. Letting him take office in Huaichuan was something that had been decided long ago. Although this place is inconspicuous, it's located at the border between Qin and Song. Usually, it's not a place that's under any jurisdiction, but also involves the struggle and confrontation between the Qin and Song factions in the imperial court. Placing a seemingly inconspicuous chess piece here, who knows if he won't be able to rob a big dragon in the future? Hearing this, Sun Lang turned to Lin Wuying and smiled. "How many more years?" County Magistrate Lin smiled bitterly. 2 more years, and Her Highness will directly transfer me to an important position in the Ministry of War. TSK, 2 years. Sun Lang shook his head. What a pity, what a pity. As soon as he finished speaking, Empress said impatiently, "Don't talk nonsense. County Magistrate Lin, what's the situation in Huaichuan now? Is there any news about the divine weapon?" Chapter 584. This was Lin Wuying's home, so the county magistrate invited everyone to take a seat in the back hall. It could be seen that the living conditions in Huaichuan were indeed difficult, which could be seen from Lord Lin's standard of living. Because there were no women, he didn't even invite a maid. The person who served tea was an old servant who moved slowly and clumsily. Even the lackeys from Tensei province couldn't stand it anymore and volunteered to serve tea. Empress motioned for them not to bother and then looked at Lin Wuying. County Magistrate Lin understood and poured out a few caddies of bitter water. What had happened recently was really a pain in the ass. Originally, when he sought refuge with the princess back then, he wanted to have a bright future. He made an agreement with the Heavenly Policy Mansion and came to Huaichuan as a dignified martial scholar to be the county magistrate. He only needed to work hard for a few years and occupy this damn place that might play a key role in the future for Her Highness. Once the contract was over, he could be transferred by the Heavenly Policy Mansion to a department with real power in the imperial capital. He would rise up and start a smoother official career. For Lin Wuying, it was a good deal to exchange a few years for this opportunity. However, he had been cultivating his spirit and tempering his state of mind in the past few years in a remote and desolate village. It was not a big deal to lose something and gain something. However, things were unpredictable. His originally planned things suddenly went wrong. When he woke up, the whole King world had changed. He was sitting at home, but trouble fell from the sky. He was doing well as the county magistrate with the least sense of presence. So why did Huaichuan suddenly become popular? As mentioned before, because a world-class instance had been opened in Huaichuan, the new event that dropped the only limited god weapon in the entire server stirred up half of the Jianghu. It made the blood of countless heroes boil. There was no level limit and no admission ticket. Anyone could participate as long as they came. Whether they could dominate the Jianghu, become famous, and reach the pinnacle of life depended on this event. After all, Shanji once said that if you wanted to make a living, you had to rely on fighting for equipment. A large number of Jianghu people who had been brought here by this storm flocked to Huaichuan County. First, it was the small sects and sects from the nearby counties. Then, it was the martial artists from Qin and Song prefectures. In the end, armed civilians from all over the country came. These lunatics caused the GDP of Huaichuan County to skyrocket because Huaichuan County was equivalent to the new main city of activity. It was backed by the Huaichuan Mountains, an epic dungeon, and was the largest settlement in the area. Naturally, it became a place for adventurers. Martial artists. Everyone rested here, formed teams, exchanged information, and purchased supplies, which caused a series of collateral effects. All kinds of tertiary industries developed at an extremely fast pace. The merchants from the nearby prefectures found the opportunity and ran away faster than the Hong Kong reporters, just like flies that smelled the scent of feces. The small, self-sufficient farming economy in Huaichuan County was fully impacted by the capital market. The simple country people finally saw how the city people played. For a time, many simple and honest villagers were dazzled by the debauchery of capitalism. Even the hearts of the people in Huaichuan County became restless. But for County Magistrate Lin, this was not the most terrible thing. In this world, the most difficult thing to fathom is the human heart. Lin Wuying sighed. Before this incident happened, I really didn't know that the human heart could be so complicated. A so-called marvelous weapon reflected the feelings of all living beings. A large number of so-called Walin people could swarm here for the vague legend and the marvelous weapon, but they didn't consider whether they could get the sword if hundreds of people came to fight for it. Sun Lang was digging his nose out of boredom. When he heard this, he said, "What do you know? This is called a dream. Although there is only one divine weapon, everyone dreams of being the only lucky one. Isn't this the case in Jianghu? All the young people think that they will be unique, so they will disappear in the waves of Jianghu for the sake of a hero's dream. It may seem childish, but that's why Jianghu became Jianghu. In the final analysis, it's for the sake of dreams. If a person has no dreams, he is no different from a salted fish. If a martial artist has no dreams, Jianghu will become a fish drying farm. At first, these words sounded reasonable, but as he spoke, it completely changed. County Magistrate Lin was not familiar with Master Sun's style of speaking, so he could only nod and say, "Yes, yes." Then he continued, "If a group of martial artists came to snatch the sword based on their own abilities, it would be fine. But now, in Huaichuan, there are gradually signs of mutual cooperation. Everyone knows that Huaichuan County is in an awkward position, and no one wants to pay attention to it. The officials in the state probably don't even know that there is someone like me in the officialdom of Songzhou. Now, this official has suddenly become a hot commodity, and I've been receiving so many letters that my hands have become tired." The county magistrate looked very distressed. He counted on his fingers and said, "Some of them are beating around the bush, while others are being direct. They're concerned about the taboos of officialdom, so they don't dare to directly send troops here. But in their letters, they're asking if Huaichuan has enough manpower. Do we need to ask for reinforcements from the higher-ups to suppress the situation? Some of them even vaguely threaten me, saying that Huaichuan is now a mixed bag of good and bad people, and a group of martial artists are fighting over the divine weapon. If a bloody battle breaks out, I, as the county magistrate of Huaichuan County, will not be able to escape the blame. In the end, they are hinting at me to ask for reinforcements so that they can brazenly come here with an army and take the divine weapon." Empress slammed the table and said angrily, "How dare they? Who are those people? Yu Fei will report them." Before County Magistrate Lin could say anything, Sun Lang yawned and said, "What's wrong? Why are you acting like an official again? They're not wrong. The situation in Huaichuan is indeed dangerous." County Magistrate Lin did not know what Sun Lang was up to. Empress glared at Sun Lang for a moment and suddenly laughed coldly. "I almost forgot that Songzhou is Zhao Yunlong's territory. You are protecting her." Sun Lang smiled and said, "That's right. There are also differences between close and distant people. Naturally, I am closer to her. Songzhou is her territory. Even if it's disciplining her subordinates, it's not up to you to overstep your boundaries." Hearing this, Empress's tone became even colder. "If that is the case, write a letter to Zhao Yunlong and ask for help. Why are you wasting your time here?" These words hit the nail on the head. Speaking of which, it was quite a coincidence. At that time, the Demon Sword's matter hadn't blown up yet. Zhao Yunlong and Master Lu were still searching for its whereabouts. However, at that time, Sun Lang had pulled the string of the Thunderbow and shocked the world. Compared to the Demon Sword, Sun Lang's matter was obviously more important. Therefore, they immediately threw the Demon Sword aside and rushed towards Ming Province, allowing the Demon Sword to escape calamity. Therefore, if Xianjia had not entered the Ming Province, the Huaichuan would not have existed. Even if things had escalated to this point, with Zhao Yunlong's status as the Song Province's great general, he would not have cared about the court's orders. He would have led his army to search the Huaichuan thoroughly. Even Akelin would not have been able to escape, let alone a small monster. It was just that old Zhao was too busy at the moment. Not only did he have to oversee Mingzhou, but he also had to take care of the changes in the officialdom in Songzhou. He was already very busy. If he called her over for such a small matter, his heart would ache. Moreover, the current situation was delicate. Any relatively large movements would attract the attention of the court. However, the most important thing was, what kind of joke was this? Write a letter and ask Chao Patao. Chao Patao was currently in Mingzhou. The female Azuras in Mingzhou's free learning buff had not yet expired. If they called Chao Patao over, they would also know. If they knew that they were looking for the Demon Sword, wouldn't that be a problem? After all, the Demon Sword was related to one's happiness. Wouldn't they swarm over? It was not easy for me to leave the Azura arena. Why would I have to go through it again? Moreover, They had not confirmed whether the demon sword's power was effective. Master Lu was an exception. She had once entered the demon sword and became a sword spirit. Later on, she was rescued by Sun Lang, and her soul returned to her body with a portion of the demon sword's power. No one knew what the nature of her soul was. They also did not know if such an example could be replicated. Moreover, even if it could be replicated, they would have to tame the B*TCH personality first. After all, she was the sword spirit. Whether or not she would cooperate was another matter. Under such circumstances, the safest way to solve the problem was to come alone and test out all the possible problems. After confirming that there were no problems, they would bring the demon sword and the holy sword back. Otherwise, if everyone rushed overexcitedly only to find that the problem was not so easily solved, that would be a strengthened version of the Azura Arena. Therefore, Empress's suggestion was extremely vicious. Sun Lang immediately used his gaze to condemn her wild ambition. Empress asked innocently, "What's wrong?" Shameless." Of course, Sun Lang would not admit that he did not want to call Chao Patao because he was afraid of the Azura Arena. Was he such a coward? Therefore, he smiled and said, "I'm doing this for your own good. I have to give you a chance to perform. If you didn't show some value, wouldn't you continue to sit in the sidecar?" The conversation between the two confused County Magistrate Lin and the others. However, as a henchman, the most important thing was to listen carefully when the leader spoke. Naturally, it was better to forget the subtle conversation between Her Highness Empress and a mysterious man as soon as possible. Empress's expression was a bit gloomy. She glared at Sun Lang and did not continue to argue with him. She turned to County Magistrate Lin and said, "Continue." Lin Wing hurriedly responded and said, "These lords don't dare to openly send troops here, nor do they dare to rashly go there in person, so as to avoid gossip. But among the Wulin people on the street, there is no lack of their personal soldiers and servants, or the sects that usually do some dirty work under the protection of their mansions. They're all forces with official backgrounds. They have the support of the government and the army, and they are united, so they are extremely arrogant. Perhaps they are aware of the looming shadow of the government. Those Jianghu people feel threatened and immediately began to band together." County Magistrate Lin sighed. Their slogans and purposes are very provocative. Jianghu matters should be settled in Jianghu. Several organizations formed a small alliance. The common purpose is to resist the excessive interference of the government. These Jianghu organizations have different sayings. Some say that the divine weapon has caused countless disputes and should be handed over to a respectable sect for safekeeping and shelving. Some say that the treasure should be owned by the virtuous. Some say that they want to get the divine weapon first, and then their brothers will close their doors and slowly discuss who should own it. In short, under the strong external pressure of the government, these organizations reluctantly united and fought side by side against the enemy. In addition, there are some unworldly masters who are alone and disdain to group together. Some of them are independent gurus, some are heads of sects, and some have deep backgrounds. Speaking of this, the county magistrate smiled bitterly. But among them, there's another force that I do not understand the most. I have also vaguely found out about it recently, because they actually came to me to talk about cooperation. Everyone wants to fight for the divine weapon, but this force does the opposite. They bribed some Jianghu people and hired them to enter the Huichuan Mountains. Their purpose is not to fight for the divine weapon, but to find a way to provide convenience for the person who holds the divine weapon. Empress said coldly, "Who are these people? Are they a hidden demon clan or a big sect with ulterior motives? You may find it ridiculous, but these people are a group of businessmen." Lin Wuying sighed. They're the real smart people. They know that the divine weapon is a hot potato. Instead of fighting for it, it is better to do business. Listening to them, not only do they want to help the person who holds the divine weapon, they also hope that this farce will continue. It is best to make it an eternal martial arts legend and turn the Huichuan into a treasure bowl. That you're tuning in to the Warrior Lore YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.